What's up, Reloaded listeners? This came to you at the start of the episode to let you know that there's not going to be an episode next week, possibly not one the week after, but definitely not one next week. Taking just a little bit of a break and a hiatus to recharge for the push in Old War. So hope you enjoy the show, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks. Welcome to Warcraft Reloaded, a podcast brought to you by Mash Those Buttons, covering World of Warcraft Classic and its community. I am Bobby, also known as Blazin' Bob, and once again, I'm joined by Mel, aka Melarina. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Last day of work for the holiday.
It's awesome. It's always an awesome time. I'm sure we're going to be coming out right after the holiday, so it'll be kind of, bittersweet for anybody listening. But joined for the first time today, we have Tableslam. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Happy to be here. Big fan.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to come. All right, guys, this is going to be the layout for the show. We're going to go over voicemails. Then we're going to do, there was no new reviews or emails. We're going to go over what we've been doing in Wrath or just WoW in general lately, Classic. Then we're going to go on to the news. There's not a ton of news, but we're going to go through it. And then we're going to, as we do with new creator guests that come on the show, we're going to get to know Tableslam a bit and about his content. Then we're going to do like a little Feral 101 guide. So strap in. Oh, and then the Table and Mel are going to make sure and remind me at the end of the show that I do an add-on of the week, because I do have a lot of add-ons of the week and I haven't done them in a while. So that's on you. All right. I
got the notes up. I got you.
Awesome. I would like to thank our tank patrons in Thick Lizzie and Croxford. Thank you so much for contributing every month. I'd like to remind everybody to get your guides and your gold guide from Rested XP and use coupon code RELOADED to save 5% at checkout and support the show. All right. We're going to get to the voicemails, but I'm going to tell you the number here real quick. And I don't know why I'm so bad at talking today, but it's hopefully going to get better as we go, guys. Just bear with me. But the number is 816-866-1066. All right. Let's get into the first email. And it's a little bit of a lengthy one, but I'm going to stop it throughout to comment on a couple of the different things.
Hey, Colin from Grobulus. Just outside here enjoying the cold weather, taking a quick smoke break. But just wanted to say that been listening to the podcast for not too long now. I want to say like almost a year now, maybe shy of a year. But found you guys through Apple, and just want to thank you guys. Made my commutes to work and school a little better. Definitely. That and some coffee just really wakes my morning. I just want to appreciate it. Bob, I see how you are, classic rogue, trying to always sneak in how rogues have to experience this and that in conversations. And as a rogue player, I see you over there.
All right, so I'm going to stop it there. Yes, guilty. but it's not because I'm a rogue player. If you'll notice, if I see a correlation to warrior or any class that I play, or see a correlation, I like to insert my butt right in there and try and tell my story. And it's some people like it, some people don't, but that's just who I am, and I just want to be in conversation, and that's just how it is. I'm sorry.
Well, it helps you relate too. Like if somebody's talking about something that one class does and you recognize something that your class can do, it helps relate to it. You can understand it better, and anybody who's listening might start thinking that way too and start to analyze things for their own class.
Well, and it's a lot of people bag on me in different, especially mostly Reddit, a little bit of YouTube comments, but they're like, Bob just talks too much. Like, let your guests talk. And if you've been watching the show, my interview style is not your typical Hollywood interview. Like, I don't and I think it makes the interviews better, because for the most part, it puts most guests at much more ease, not having to talk as much and getting more time to think about their answer while I talk. And it seems to be a good thing, because the interviews are often really fun. So, just keep looking for that technology where you can just make it so you can't hear me, but then you won't hear the questions, so it'll be a little weird, but it might work out for you. All right, I'm gonna go on.
No, but honestly, I appreciate what you guys do. And Mel, I remember hearing when you missed that jump in Nax, I was laughing on my drive from driving to school. And that same day in my raid to Nax, guess what happened? I missed my jump, and I just got relentlessly fired.
Karma.
My,
I was just thinking that, I wonder if Mel had anything to say about that.
Listen, you guys, everybody gave me so much crap because I'm a priest and I didn't levitate, but I now know why I don't levitate, right? Because now I play my paladin and my heart stops every time I have to jump because I don't have levitate. So I don't even practice it. And now it's awful.
It's almost like training wheels, right?
Right.
You get too used to it, it can hurt you in the long run.
I don't even have to think about it. Cool. I'm glad I could give everybody a chuckle.
My guild, and I thought that was pretty humorous. And also, I want to say that you got bigger cojones than I do for tanking, because as a DPS only kind of guy, let me tell you, it's always been too scary to try. But I commend you for trying, and hopefully you'll get to tanking even Uldor one day, which I've been hearing is pretty scary. But I want to ask you guys a quick.
So just to address that, I'd like to talk to anybody who hasn't tanked before, because I was terrified. And I mean, years and years of experience with this game, and just knowing the ins and outs. I was terrified to tank, and you just gotta get in there and do it. And people are generally going to be pretty easy on you if you're a new tank and you tell them right off the bat, especially in 5-mans. Now, getting into raiding tanking is even scarier. And you just hope that you have somebody who's, a group that's going to be patient with you. And you just also have to come knowing your shit. Dude, research. You're still not going to know it all. There's still going to be things you figure out along the way. I've only tanked
by a pally.
Well, but there's so much more to that. And I'm talking about main tanking is a very different thing from off tanking too. And
Big time.
I've only tanked Saffron or Sartharion 3 times, right? Because our second raid was only doing Nax every week for a long time. And man, I position him poorly every time. And then sometimes I'll get hit with the fucking wave, and it's so embarrassing. I'm just apologizing to the guys, and like, you know, they're at least on the outside patient with me about it. And, you know, Yip in the guilds try to help me with like ways, but positioning the boss is huge.
Yip's in the guild or in the raid too, right? Because he's our main tank in our main raid.
I think it's
and then he's
good,
a DPS
though.
in the second raid. No, it is good, but it like
just makes
the
me nervous.
anxiety go higher, right? Because you're like, somebody here knows exactly what to do, and they know how wrong I'm doing it, right?
Well, and I want to do good for him too, and it's like gives a lot of anxiety, and so boss pulls and positioning a snap threat are all pretty.
This wasn't
rough.
about you tanking. This was about me tanking.
Was Wrath the first time either of you have tanked, or did you guys do any tanking in TBC?
I mean,
I've never done anything but heal.
Yeah, I mean, in vanilla, like arms tanked, you know, like, or Fury tanked, you know, five man dungeons, but that's it. And then
like
a
not
little
an actual
bit
tank spec, just throw on a shield.
Yeah, basically throw on a shield and any extra tank gear that I had type of deal, but like it was nothing like crazy. This is the first time I've ever like tanked a raid and main tanked, and so the boss pulling is a little crazy, but just try it.
It's fun, right?
It's actually really fun just to look down the face of the boss. Yeah. And
I don't know. This whole melee thing is really kind of annoying. Like, I'm used to being further away. Yeah, I'm like trying to hit something. I can't tell if I'm too close or too far. Ugh. It's fine.
Well, for anybody, I would just say jump in there, give it a shot. But yeah, it's definitely a very stressful gig, and you, especially if you're somebody who feels for the people in your group and feels bad when you're slowing them down and things of that nature, it is rough. But when you get better at it and everything, it's much more rewarding than being the DPS. And that comes from a lifetime DPSer who still loves to DPS, but it's a different thing, and so I definitely think you should give it a shot.
It's more rewarding than healing. I feel like healing, you feel more like...
You feel like people's lives are in your hands when you're healing.
Yeah, right?
Like
tanking, I feel like I have an excuse a lot of times when things go wrong, whereas healing, it's really, you just didn't heal the right person, right? Tanking, it's like somebody pulls aggro and they're bad, right? Or somebody dies.
Should have called for self.
Yeah, you know?
I'm so Zyrene was recently on Countdown to Classic, and he made the case that if you're having to do all kinds of shit to get rid of aggro on a normal basis, then your tank needs to be gearing differently. Like, you know, he points out that like you don't want to use his gear set because his healers are crazy different than probably yours. Like, so he's sitting at like 28k health unbuffed and with a ton of like, not a ton, but like a good amount of DPS pieces mixed in, you know, because he has to keep the threat from the huge pumpers. If you're asking your
that's
pumpers,
not a lot of health for a tank. That's not a lot of health.
Yeah. Like you don't want to be asking your rogues to faint on cooldown and shit and shit like that. Like you want to position
what level you're
yourself.
At, right? Like it depends. Like if everybody is fairly new, or if you're a brand new tank, like you're not going to go in there and have complete hold of threat, right? Like there's things, and like every raid I do as a pally tank now is I learn and remember to do something additional, right? Like last raid, like I started to feel a little bit more comfortable in like just my rotation and my positioning and all of that. And then it was like halfway through and I was like, shit, I haven't been using my wings. That's a problem. And then I remember to use those, right? And so like there's constantly, but if you try to do everything all at once, like you're really gonna struggle.
Yeah,
And
one
the
step
like
at a time with
switching back,
anything.
Yep.
yeah.
I mean, that's
Switching
even
back
what
and
I
forth
do.
between seals, like
Oh, like going command to vengeance and stuff.
yeah. Give her
I
boss,
forget
give her
that sometimes
trash.
too. Like I have a pally, I don't play him that much, but like when I tank on him, yeah. When it's trash time, I go command, and then when it's boss time, I go vengeance. Sometimes I forget to go vengeance, and I'm like, why is my judgment not hitting as hard?
Yep. Same. It's fine. You know,
Yep.
I just learn and I'm do better the
That's all you
next
can
time.
hope for is to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right, so let's get back into this.
Question. I know in the last podcast you guys had, or this latest one, I guess, one that came out, Kargos mentioned something about how in the classic servers, GDKP was almost kind of in the hush-hush, or kept in the hush-hush in the, like, general chat, I guess, but, you know, it existed. And as a person myself, I've never really done a GDKP ever. This is my first time experiencing Wrath as, like, an actual competent adult, because Wrath came out when I was, like, 8 or 9. So I was
Me
a
too.
small brain child, so I didn't really comprehend much. I had a character because my brother made, you know, allowed me to have a character on his account. But getting to experience it all now is awesome. But, you know, being in Dollar all the time, seeing all these GDKPs pop up, this and that, and seeing how people kind of always like, you know, are mentioning it in general chat and this and that. Again, whispers are like, oh, you know, do you need money? Join a GDKP or this, or I've even had some people in like pugs being like, oh, but to go run a GDKP. Is anybody interested?
So this is where we finally found out how long the voicemails can be. It is 3 minutes. So for anybody calling in,
If you're looking at min max,
yep. Yeah. So, all right. So he did do his follow up here.
Oops, I didn't realize there was a timer to these. I'm so sorry. I'll make it quick. My question is pretty much, as a person, from a person who's never done a GDKP, is that one of the, do you guys recommend kind of like getting into it now, staying out of it? Is it a good source of income for gold and stuff? You know, I'm not really interested in like bidding in items, but as just a resource for just getting gold, would you guys recommend it? Do you guys think it's like something that hurts WoW or the economy? I mean, you know, I'm open to anything, but I've, you know, heard good things and other people advocate for it, other people condemn it, so I'm not sure where it stands. So I'm kind of like, from an outside perspective, it's just like an unknown thing to me. But that was it. Sorry for the long voicemail. But, you know, it's my first time calling to a podcast. So once again, thank you so much for what you guys do, all the hard work you guys put in. And shout out to my guild, the Landlubbers. Yarr. You guys have a good one. Bye-bye.
nice.
Arr, matey. We
he's
shiver
repping.
timbers.
Props for repping.
So this is a huge question, to be honest. We'll go ahead and give you a little breakdown, but I encourage you to check out our previous episodes. We did one like completely on GDKP. We had someone who runs multiple ones come on, and then we talked about it I think the next episode too, like a pretty in-depth conversation on it. But as far as it hurting the population, yeah, it probably does hurt WoW. It's probably not a good thing. It probably does incentivize bots. But at the same time, like, it's gonna be going on anyhow. So
It was going on back in the day too.
Yeah, and it's
Not like a new thing. It's just more gold now.
Yeah, well, and just more of them, and like Discord and easier ways to like, you know, get them going. So there's just tons going at all times. But as for like, is it a good way to make cash? For sure. But there's some differences though. Like, you do kind of need the entry cash, or you need to be a carry. So if you're, say, in a guild where you're getting really good gear at the current tier content, then doing the old tier content that your guild's not doing, really, like, you could jump in as a carry and then you're not expected to buy anything. You're just expected to pump. Now, if you're a Ret Paladin, you're not going to be able to get in as a carry. And if you try and join a GDKP and you don't buy stuff when you claim that you would buy to get into the group, you're going to get blacklisted and nobody's going to take you to GDKPs. So there's there'll be people that are looking at your gear and asking, why aren't you bidding on this? This is like 26 levels higher than what you have. Like, what's going on? There are hybrids, there are pure buyers, and there are carries. And carries aren't expected to buy. Hybrids are expected to buy some. Carries are like straight up, they're on follow on somebody while they're at like work or something, and they're expected to buy anything that they can use. There'll be especially the big ones, they'll ask you specifically what items you're looking for and stuff. So you're not going to be able to just make gold without a few stipulations. So that's what I have to say about it. But does anybody else have anything to say about it? Do you run GDKP's table?
Not that often, mostly because instead of running, I have enough alts to do it if I wanted to. I just end up leveling more alts because that's more fun to me than making, I feel like I have enough gold for what I want to do in the game. So I don't feel like I need more. So that's mainly why I don't run them. But I mean, I would. Yeah. I have a weird take though. I don't like them because it makes me feel like I'm complicit in some shady business sort of thing, because there's
you are.
That was the notorious thing especially in vanilla and TBC, is some of the prices that people were paying in GDKPs in vanilla classic was okay, there's no way they got all that money through legitimate means. They had to have bought that gold. So running a GDKP in vanilla classic was basically you're handling hot money. Essentially you're handling hot currency, and that kind of stigma kind of followed GDKPs through TBC and now into Wrath for me personally anyway. So I don't generally like them because of that, but they are a good way to make gold. But there's groups that min-max the amount that they could potentially get in the pot by inspecting your gear ahead of time. And it's if you're below a certain level of gear, they ask you how much gold you have and what you're going to bid on. And they purposely try and bring people that are going to bid on the same items to drive the price up to increase the pot.
Yep.
So it's that's something to look out for too. If you need a specific item, expect to have to be in a bidding war with somebody.
And some of them can get super shady. One time a warrior on the tier chest in Black Temple, there was nobody going against me, so the warrior bid me up when he couldn't even use the item. And so there's definite shady things that do go on. It just just like with everything, there's good ones and there's bad ones, but the only thing that I really use GDKPs for, I really just got into them towards later parts of TBC, and it was to make gold. And so I would just go on my lock as a carry, not expected to buy anything. And then I started to accumulate, cash. And then I knew I wanted to switch to Rogue and Warrior for Wrath. So I started running a carry once a week and then 2 hybrids once a week with the Warrior and the Rogue, and started actually buying gear so I would be ready for faster leveling in Wrath. And it worked out really good for me. And I'll probably go back as a carry on the combat Rogue. I'll probably do 1 DKP Nax a week once once Ulduar's out, and then I'll probably if I hit a certain gold threshold, I'll probably go and gear up and be a buyer, on my priest, So like it just depends on how much time I have, but I do enjoy raiding a ton, and there wasn't achievements to hunt to hunt for while streaming during the day. So the GDKPs were just really good, easy, streaming content. So yeah, and just a way to like practice for the raid, keep in practice
Stay
for
sharp.
the main raid. And so yeah, so it just all depends on what you want to do, but there's definite caveats, stipulations, and it's a little overwhelming to get into at the start. I don't know what server you're on, but Benediction has a huge server that we just basically sign up for, and there's dozens of Grob for sure has a GDKP Discord server that you could like check out. So yeah, it's kind of long-winded. I don't think Mel's even ever run a GDKP.
Nope.
Would you?
Yeah, I don't have anything against them. I just
a time thing.
Yeah, usually I've only had one character, so
That's
I was raiding on my main, and I couldn't do GDKPs. So yeah, now I have my pally, but I raid on my pally too. So I don't have anything against them. I think they're fine. Yeah, they're probably a money laundering system, to be honest, but whatever. And I think it's hard. I feel like it's hard to make money in them unless you're in a guild that does the highest rating content. And if you're in a guild that does the highest rating content, you're probably rating and you're locked out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's why I was pointing out that's why I haven't done one GDKP yet, because I'm raiding on both of my tunes. But as a tank and as a rogue DPS, like I'll be able to run the older raid GDKPs. Now those are way less money, but it'll be. Yeah, it's still a substantial amount, like especially right after the new content's out, because it's basically just building up alts and people that are coming back into the game that bought gold. Basically is what it boils down to.
Or even just you make so much gold just from leveling. Like you could easily go into a GDKP with like the 4 or 5K you got from leveling and like get yourself at least a couple pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, people were running GDKPs for Karazhan at the end of TBC. Like when Sunwell was out, people were still doing Karazhan GDKPs. So like it's going to go on. Like people are going to be doing Nax GDKPs. I mean, although I guess with the introduction of like Heroic Plus and stuff like that, or sorry, Titan Rune Dungeons, I guess that might go down a little bit, but maybe not, because
I think 10-mans will be more popular, right? Because 10-mans will be dropping the 25-man loot.
They'll be more popular for people that don't want to run GDKPs, but nobody wants to run a dungeon where they're like, no GDKP runner wants to not have bidding going on. They don't want to bring. Yeah, if they were going to do that, they would just do a SR run. You know what I mean? So, yeah, and there'll be more loot dropping.
We'll see what happens with the whole GDKP scene once 10 Rune Dungeons are in, because with 10-man loot going to Rune Dungeons and then 10 and 25 both dropping 25-man loot with increased drops as well, like the gear is going to be plentiful.
Yep.
It's not going to be like the reason why things go for high prices is because things drop and they're rare. But if the same things are going to drop in 10 and 25, you got 2 chances to get the thing a week. I would expect the prices to go down a little bit at that point. So GDKPs might be hurting a little bit once phase 2 comes out. We'll see.
Well, then it's also just like flavor of the month type of deal too. GDKPs, like here, this first phase, if you were a hunter, you were getting your gear, your male gear, super cheap. Like, unless you were trying to go for items that were contested for other people. If you were a DK, you were paying out the wazoo. And like, so it just kind of depends on what class is popular. Like if you're a healer, you'll probably get your gear pretty cheap. Like, there's just like, there's a lot of different things. It's a whole different culture, and there's no way for us to tell you everything about it right here. But I do encourage you to check out the older episodes that we actually talked about DKP. If you go to the Mash Those Buttons site and go to our page and just do a Control F and just type in GDKP, you should be able to like find the actual episode where we talked about it, the whole episode. So thank you for your email though. And I do want to remind people, try to keep them under three minutes. This one did ask multiple questions and give multiple talking points, so it wasn't too bad. So I do appreciate that. But yeah, let's move on to the last voicemail.
Hey, Mel and Bob. This is Chris from Grobulus. Just want to give you guys a quick call, quick voicemail. I wanted to really say thank you for all the great inclusion and inclusiveness you guys have provided for this podcast. Love how we have the best representation of homeless people and our very beloved cool people with sunglasses all over the podcast. Just makes me feel so warm and happy inside. Anyways, I've been getting some flack from my retail guild for being such a heavy classic Andy recently. Just kind of wanted to pick your brain a little bit on what do you guys think would be a fun event or something that could possibly meld the two communities at some point. I know you guys aren't necessarily the most fond of each other. I played a bit of both, did my foot in a bit of both. I think it'd just be fun to see some kind of event or something set up by the community to try and test each other's skills or something. I don't know. The thought process I had was with all the hype of the hardcore Iron Man type character progression, competition stuff going on. It could be fun to see people do hardcore characters and then try and continue it on with hardcore characters in Dragonflight or something. Continue the character progression, if you will, right? Like, say you stop at 80, you know, you get through Old War and then continue into the next raid, so on and so forth, in retail or something. I know it's a bit of a different game and stuff, and I just want to see some community again. I'm so tired of the flag. But anyways, once again, thank you guys for letting us do this. Love the voicemail segment, as always.
You're muted.
I don't really have a whole ton for this. Like, I don't even know if you die a lot in retail.
Yeah, I don't either.
Like, but I mean, maybe if you were doing like retail Iron Man would kind of be, I think, maybe fun if like if they actually had it built into the game and then you were trying to see like if you leveled to max and then you wanted to see how far you could get grouping with other hardcore characters doing Mythic Plus dungeons and see how high you could get. There could be like a leaderboard for that. Like, but you'd have to have a lot of people that play retail regularly and some creators that are trying to start that push. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that could be something that would be pretty exciting to see people, you know. And remember, I'm talking with ignorance of how Mythic Plus and everything else works. But if they had one life to live and the server deleted their character, or, you know, they could, you know, choose to do it just like we do in the classic hardcore community. But that would put a lot of stakes in there. And you do level faster in retail and stuff. So, like, you know, like, it would allow them to like work back up fairly quick, I think. So I think that could be a neat thing for retail to do. And like maybe if some of the creators get together, like they could do it. Like, I don't know how you do that. Because like if cargoes can talk, you know, 100,000 people into playing hardcore in classic vanilla, where it takes a literal like forever to get to level 60. If he can talk that many people into doing that, I'm sure some of the retail creators could too. But I don't know. I feel like they might be a different breed of player. So yeah, I don't really have much in like I know Go, you know, has an idea for like a Project 60 type of thing, but like I don't really have any ideas for these types of things. I just kind of, if something sounds cool, I kind of go with it. But yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have anything?
I see what Shaka said in chat there. He said you dial out when you're doing raid prog, but while leveling, not sure if it's possible to die. He's totally right. The last time I played retail, I started to level a bit before Dragonflight came out, just in case I decided I wanted to try it out. And it felt like I had to try to die. It was like the game wouldn't let me die. So like the way that hardcore is for on the era servers is like the game is hard enough that like you might accidentally die, and sometimes it feels like the game is trying to kill you. Whereas on retail, it's like the opposite. It's hard to die on retail. So I feel like if there were to be like some sort of Iron Man or Deathless Run sort of thing on retail, I think it would be more focused on like the group content, like try and do a deathless dungeon run or whatever, where everyone survives the dungeon.
Yeah, like like Mythic Plus, right?
Right. Like that would certainly add a lot higher stakes to doing like higher keys. Like if you know that like if it's a wipe, everyone's deleting their characters. Like, can you imagine? Like that, the stakes involved with that would be high enough where like a lot of players probably wouldn't even do it.
Well, and then you could even, I mean, because the leveling process is so easy, you could even just go ahead and say, dude, if you want a boost, you can. Like the whole challenge is like raising our Mythic Plus level and seeing how high we can get in Mythic Plus without dying, right?
Yeah, I think that'd be cool because like obviously like Raider IO exists and things like that, like your IO score and whatever. Like if it's a hardcore Mythic Plus thing, how high can you get your IO before you die? Like that sort of thing. Like, can you get KSM without dying once? Like that sort of thing would be crazy to see. Because normally, like when people are doing M plus, like they have like a set group that they run with, the people that they are more comfortable with playing with or whatever, or like they set their comps specifically for whatever the affixes are for that week and whatever. So a lot of really, really good players don't have any deaths in their runs anyway, but like, can you get KSM without dying one time? Like I would be interested to see if somebody can do that.
And you, like for that type of challenge, you would probably want to make the rule that you can't have any raid gear. Like you're only allowed to gear in dungeons, right? So, yeah, I mean, there's probably other competitions you could do in retail. I know the PvP is pretty good. You can maybe, yeah. I'm really at a loss. I'm bad at these types of thoughts.
I feel like if you like, people that play more retail than classic would probably have a better idea of what would actually truly be a challenge. Cause like, I don't play very much retail at all. Like it's installed, but I haven't played it since like before Dragonflight came out. So like, I don't really like, my idea of what would be a challenge in retail is like not, take that with a giant grain of salt. Like, I don't know what would actually be a challenge. I can really only speak to classic and like era and stuff like that. But I mean, if somebody else who plays a lot of retail could answer that question, what would actually be a challenge? Like what would be hard to do without dying? Like then, you got your brainstorm started on what something like that would look like in retail.
Maybe in retail, if you really wanted to do it from start to finish, like maybe you would have to start at the naked challenge. Like you can equip weapons and, and your ranged weapon, type of deal. But like then, like it kind of removes a whole lot of the fun of hardcore with like getting gear and stuff, because like that is really fun in hardcore. So yeah, I don't know.
Upgrades are more like meaningful in hardcore for sure. I feel like either way, like baseline, if they were to do any sort of hardcore thing in retail, it would for sure be like no heirlooms, self-found, self-craft, self-found or self-made, or, one of the other scavenge only, like stuff like that. Like those type of things I feel like would definitely be like on the table as far as like baseline to start at for hardcore in retail, because there are so many things that are like account bound and whatever that you can equip to make your leveling experience easier. So strip all that away and then just level as though it's a fresh account with nothing. If you level up that way and like no auction house, no mailbox, no heirlooms, like all that stuff, I feel like that would be a good baseline to start with in theory. But again, I don't play a lot of retail, so I don't know if that would even like work.
Yeah, same. I mean, the retail I've played since Kata like really just consists of Dragonflight. I felt obligated to play it. I'm still going to play it more because I mean they gave it to me free and sent me a huge box of goodies and everything, and so I want to play it on stream and like give it a fair shake. But at the same time, like I gotta fulfill my Wrath stuff always first. So, but yeah, I leveled one of the new Draktherin to like from 58 to 63, and then a rogue from 60 to 63, and like I couldn't die on the new class. Like they gave me all this blue blue gear, and I couldn't die. But then on the rogue, I did die because I had green. I think it's because I had green gear. So like gear might like really matter in retail. That's what made me think of like the naked challenge and stuff of that sort. All right, guys.
Definitely be interesting. I'd be interested to see if anybody does anything like that. I'd watch it.
All right, guys. What have we been doing lately in WoW?
I have been raiding. And yeah, that's really, I think, all I've done. It's been a busy week trying to get ready for the holidays. All of that fun stuff. And then, yeah, I was in Colorado last week. Oh, that was before we did the last podcast, wasn't it? I don't remember.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I've just raided. And then other than that, Bob and I are going to try to do the Christmas event here in the next couple days.
After we're going to try to do it after the podcast here.
All of it?
No, we're just going to try to get started tonight after the show. So yeah, for me, it's been like a bad week for me. I haven't got to play hardly at all, like with all the Christmas stuff. We're also recording on a Thursday after we recorded on a Saturday, but like I really haven't been able to do much. I've been Christmas shopping and doing all kinds of other stuff. My car broke down and I had to get that fixed. And yeah,
dude, F's in chat for Bob's car.
Yeah, it didn't break down. It just blew a gasket and then was leaking oil all over the engine. And the hood was smoking and it was not good. But yeah, so I kind of glossed over it last week, but I did get my Fell Striker. I got to try that in raid. It was hit or miss. I still have to like figure out how I'm gonna do it because
you get a weak aura for the buff.
Well, I've got the weak aura for all the buffs, and that's what made me realize what I've been doing wrong for a while. I've been like really so like the way my Fan of Knives works is I pop my like it's a macro that throws on my Fan of Knives weapons, right? But I realized that when I throw on my Fan of Knives weapon, Berserking and Mongoose cannot proc for 30 seconds. So I was actually kind of like screwing myself on the procs for those procs. So like I basically noticed that during the raid, and I had some really good ones, and I kind of like messed around with the because I really don't want to keep the AoE spec. I really want to do a different spec to do some other stuff. So like I messed around with both specs and like saw how much different it was, and it is quite a bit different, like between the two specs. So yeah, I don't
different
know.
place out there.
Well, it's just like
Different
the
priorities.
damage is way different. Like, but it's literally just switching to a spec that is ass damage for anything but the move Fan of Knives, right?
Right.
So I'll get stuck in it sometimes during a boss fight if like I'm not quick enough, and it's a real pain in the ass. So, but it did up my AOE DPS significantly. Like at the end of the raid, I looked at the trash difference between me and the other rogue, and I basically doubled him on trash. And most of the time, I wasn't using the AOE spec, so I was just using combat.
Striker.
Yeah, just having Fell Striker, and so yeah, so it's pretty nuts, pretty fun. I got that. Then I got the Grim Toll, and now that the fights are so short, Grim Toll is huge for combat because we're killing everything so fast that like burst at the start with that armor pen is just like freaking awesome. And so I'm gonna actually do like some sort of a test here soon on a training dummy, because no one will do it. Everybody just uses the Sims and won't actually check stuff in the game. So I'm going to switch everything over to armor pen, all my gems, all of it, and see the difference. Like I'm going to do, because all the fights are like, most of the fights are under 2 minutes at the moment. So I'm going to do, 5 2-minute runs right down to what happened. Then I'm going to switch my gems and then do 5 2-minute runs and just see which one's higher. Because from the data, it's still too early to switch over to armor pen. But yeah. I'm just wondering, because of the short fights, if maybe it's not too early. So
you're saying you're going to try it on a dummy?
Yeah.
Do it if you can. I don't know if they're still up. Do it on PTR so you don't have to like actually jack up your gems in your real gear.
Oh, I guess I could do it in PTR, huh? I could just copy my... It's a really good call. I think, thanks, man. I can't believe I was...
Don't be burning them gems, dude. Those are expensive.
Yeah, I know. I was just like, I've got so much cash at the moment.
One thing I want to touch on, because you mentioned how swapping your weapons made your enchants not able to proc or whatever. Is that just because you don't have those enchants on the weapons that you switch to?
No. It's like... It's because when you put the weapon on, it does the same thing as a trinket does. Like you can't, like, how an on use trinket, you can't use it for a certain time.
Right. So I'm not sure, because I've done, so I mean, we'll get into this later when we start talking about feral stuff, but like I spent like probably 3-4 weeks doing the flower shifting thing, and there's a macro that I used to use that would swap a dagger when I casted Gift of the Wild, just to shorten my swing speed when I go back to cat. And I threw Mongoose on that dagger because every once in a while, when you switch back, sometimes you get like a free extra weapon enchant proc. And it doesn't happen often, but like I have seen it happen. And that's like, that's equipped for less than 30 seconds or whatever. So I've basically gotten a Mongoose proc immediately after swapping to a dagger.
Now
before.
You're making me wonder if the weak aura is wrong about it, because it definitely, as soon as I swap the weapons, it puts Berserker and everything on like a 30-second cooldown. I wonder if that's wrong, because like if that's the case, then how are the DKs swapping?
Right. I would say check your own logs, like look and see when you got, but like try and remember at what point of the fight you swapped. Even if it's just on trash, remember when you swapped, and then when you went back to your normal weapons, and see if it was less than 30 seconds before you got a proc again, and you'll have your answer. If it happens before 30 seconds, then the weak auras are wrong. But like I'm telling you, man, like I for sure have gotten Mongoose procs like like less than 5 seconds after swapping and then swapping back, and then I got a berserking proc right away too. So like it's,
I mean,
maybe
I
take
could
it with a little grain of salt.
Yeah, I could just do that on a dummy. Now I wouldn't know the Fell Striker on use proc or the Fell Striker on hit proc, but I would know berserking and mongoose.
Yeah, there may be a similar cooldown on the dagger itself, but as far as the enchants go, like I've definitely gotten immediate procs right after a swap before.
Huh. All right. Well, that'll be something to look into. If anybody knows, like write into us or leave a comment, because like that would be neat to know. And then really hasn't been. I really haven't gotten to do much. I'm excited about after the first of the year. Time's going to open up and I'll be able to do a lot more. But Table, what have you been doing?
Oh boy, I've been doing some raiding just like Mel. Currently only really on one character. I've really only been doing 25s, kind of in that kind of raid loggy state. Working on videos and stuff like that until the fresh event happened on the era servers with the hardcore stuff. And I've been playing hardcore basically as much as I can, to the detriment of my upload schedule.
Is this the first time you've done hardcore?
Yeah, the only time I've ever played hardcore in any other game was like Diablo 2. So basically for over 15 years, I hadn't played anything hardcore until like this past Thursday, like a week ago.
Oh,
Dude,
wow.
it sucks you in fast, doesn't it?
I'm full pilled on hardcore for sure.
Dude, my guild was like sending me messages when I first did the like road to rag jump, and they're like, "Bob, are you quitting TBC?" And I was like, "No, I'll be there at raid. Just won't be on at any other time," because I was always on, like doing crap like on TBC, and then all of a sudden I'm just only on hardcore except for like raid nights. And
they were probably worried about you. They're like, well, where'd he go? Did something happen? Yes, something did happen. It's called hardcore.
Yeah, well, and you just want to complete that, at least that first one. Like, so okay, so this is the first time you've been playing hardcore. What's been your strategy so far?
What are you playing first?
I've only played druids so far. I have 2 druids that are alive and 7 that are dead.
No shit. You've died 7 times
in a week?
Yeah.
Wow.
The very first character that I made is still alive. He's level 18. He's like 4 or 5 bars away from 19. Been taking it super cautious. I want to keep him alive because he's named Tableslam. I feel like if I die early, that reflects poorly upon the brand. But then
you delete him so you can name your next one Tableslam too.
No, I'll probably leave him as a ghost because if I die early, I don't deserve to have a level 60 named Tableslam. But the like first like spate of deaths happened because one of our pals, Juno Eclipse on Twitch, is a pretty active member of the hardcore community, and he organized a leveling tournament, and he's done leveling tournaments in the past as well. But he did a leveling tournament this past Saturday. It was horde only, level 10 start. Everybody starting in Thrall's room with an empty quest log, and we had 5 hours to get as many levels as we possibly could. So I was like, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'm brand new to the scene. I would love to participate in this. So I started working on a Tauren Druid, got one to level 10. Like the first one that I did got to level 10, started the run to Orgrimmar, decided that I wanted to go around Camp Tarajo because I was like, I don't want to get too much extra experience from the Explorer XP. So I'm going to go around Tarajo. Hyena got me. Because they have a 1 billion yard aggro radius apparently.
Well, see, why didn't you want to get Explorer?
Because he was like, get to level 10, but don't try and get too much extra XP into level 10. So I was trying to gain as little XP as possible from exploration on the way there, when really I just should have written down the amount of XP into 10 I was, so they could subtract it at the end. So I should have taken the safe route instead.
I guarantee everybody took the safe route though. So like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So you live, you learn, or in this case, you die, you learn. And then my next 2 druids, I only got to level 6, and they both died to Snagglepaw in Mulgore because he pulled alongside something else I tried to pull, and he's very fast and he nets. So,
oh no.
And then my third one, I got him to level 9 before the tournament started. So I was a full level behind everybody, but was like, you know what, I'm going to go anyway, just because it's fun to participate, like whatever. Got him to level 13 and change, like halfway through 13, died 17 minutes before the tournament was over to a Lost Barons Kodo because I got a little complacent and didn't heal myself early enough and paid the price.
Damn. Well, just to like let you know, when do you get cat? Is that 20? Yeah.
20, yeah.
When you get cat, everything changes. Like druid gets a lot easier, but it's not like super easy, but druid gets really, really good. And then once you get travel form, it's huge. Like there's a whole lot, but that's
fun,
crazy.
I leveled the druid that's currently my main in Wrath. I leveled him during original vanilla, so like I'm already familiar with like the talent progression and skill progression and things like that because I've already done it once before. But you know that character is a multi-life character, obviously, so I never done it without dying. So at least I've leveled as feral before, but my approach this time is a lot different because I'm specifically trying to not die.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah. Are you messing with any professions?
Yes, my main guy, the one that I like, the one that's actually named Tableslam, I'm going skinning and leatherworking because obviously it's self-found, self-made. So I want a wolf's head. So that means I have to make it.
Pretty big, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only way that I can get a wolf's head is by being skinning leatherworking. So that's the choice there. Once I get a wolf's head, I might drop it. I might drop them both. I might keep skinning, honestly, because it's decent gold to like just vendor the leather. But I might swap to alchemy because alchemy is extremely strong in hardcore.
Well,
so I might go back and farm stuff and whatever.
Yeah, well, you would have to switch both because you wouldn't be able to do alchemy if you can't get herbs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, like I might keep skinning for a bit until I pre-farm the herbs and then just power level it, drop skinning, pick up alchemy, power level it. I might do one of those just to keep skinning as long as I can. One of those things.
Yeah.
But we'll see when we get there. Step 1 is to get to level 40 so I can equip the wolf's head.
Yeah, dude.
There you go.
Alchemy is extremely strong to get you, but it extremely slows down your leveling process. But it like fishing, alchemy, all of these things, I like really loved during hardcore because usually when I died, I was drinking. So when I really wanted to play hardcore and I was drinking, I was like, well, maybe I'll just fish.
There you go.
Maybe I'll just go herb in an area that's much lower level mobs. So maybe I'll
still
just
a way
do
to progress your character, a low risk way to progress your character. Still good.
Yep. So that's what I ended up doing on my final rogue that actually made it to 60. But rogue is actually pretty tough. Like there's so many people that have never played it that try and talk shit, but it's actually a really tough class to do. Like, so
if you can get gouge kiting down, it makes it significantly easier.
Well, I mean, gouge kiting is great, but like there's the whole thing. Like I got smart later on. Like if I didn't have the move to reset, vanish, sprint, and everything else, and those CDs were up, evasion and all that, just logged out for 5 minutes. Like that was just the smartest play because you really like druid. You'll see like cat. You just like you get so many more hits. Like. Whereas rogue, you miss so much. Like because
the dual penalty.
Yeah, misses can just make you just like lose a fight you should have won, and it's crazy. But
there's a lot of stuff working against feral in general in vanilla. But one of the things that actually is in its favor is that there is no weapon skill that feral needs to worry about because there's no weapons that are being used. So we don't have to worry about that.
Yep.
And the hit requirements are a lot lower. You only need 9%. Whereas for a rogue, if you're dual wielding, it's like what, 27 or something crazy?
Well, I mean, you need 9 just to make sure that your
yellows,
main
yeah.
moves hit, but like you're doing a lot of just white hits, and white hits is 27, so it's pretty rough. But
I still remember some of my rogue stuff.
yeah, man. So yeah, I'm hoping to jump back in. I did the hardcore that first day, but then just Christmas there's just been too much, and then I do it tonight. But I really want a long strange trip achievement, and this Christmas one seems like to be like a lot of more stuff than the ones I've done so far.
It's pretty in depth.
Yeah, so it's got me a little worried. Oh, I did forget to tell everybody about one more thing. So I've been opening my egg from what's it called? The Sholazar, oracles in Sholazar base, and I've been opening that. I went to raid Tuesday night, realized I hadn't opened my egg, and I could open it, and the Reigns of the Green Proto Drake popped out. So now I have 3 Proto Drakes. The one from 10 mana Chiefs, 25 mana Chiefs, and the Green Proto Drake. I'm on a roll with the mounts. Now I actually have to do the dailies every day because I need to switch over and get eggs. Like I need to get exalted so I can switch over and get the other stuff, but I still haven't gotten all the pets though. So like it's a little bit rough. What are these things
that you're opening?
They're the eggs from the Oracle rep. You get a certain amount of rep and then you get an egg that you can open every 7 days. And there's a chance at 3 different pets and 1 green proto drake. And or you get yoke, which is just like you just vendor it. And that's what I've gotten. I've gotten 1 of the pets, yoke every other time, and then I got the drake. I think it was 5 total eggs to get the drake, which is absolutely nuts. So
that's crazy. I mean, the most important part of that story is that you opened it in raid, so everybody in your raid saw that you got it. That's the most important thing.
Yep. I opened it and it was there, and I was like, guys, look at what I'm about to loot. And then I looted it, and they're like, what the fuck? It was great. But yeah, so I did get that. So that's a little awesome little thing I did. But
yeah,
all right,
dude.
We need to move into time for the news. All right, we're not going to talk about this much, but I wanted to let you guys know in case you did want to buy something. There is a Blizzard Battle.net holiday sale running through January 2nd. There's a lot of really good deals. This is across everything: Diablo, Call of Duty, Overwatch, StarCraft, even Crash Bandicoot.
What? Oh, because Activision owns Crash Bandicoot. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff you can get if you still haven't bought a boost and you do want to boost a new character for Joyous Journeys, which will be running through the 16th. Like those are all like either 25 to 50% off. So link will be in the show notes. Check it out if you are interested in any of that. All right. So the second bit of news is the end of year Blizzard update from Mike Ybarra. So basically, he just kind of goes through and talks about how they've been trying to change the culture, points out different hires and different things they've done to change the culture at Blizzard, and just kind of goes over a bunch of different stuff. But the one thing I wanted to center in on is he throws it at the end. Oh, yeah, and BlizzCon's coming back in 2023.
Yeah, I saw the tweet about it. I'm excited.
I'm excited too, man. I am so excited. And I just can't hide it. I know.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
There's gonna be some wild parties for sure.
Dude,
Uh-huh.
have you ever been to BlizzCon?
I have not. I live all the way across the country, about as far as you can get. Live in New England.
Oh
man.
yeah, that is pretty far.
It's so much
A long
fun.
flight. It is
It's
a
something
long
I've always
flight.
wanted to, but I mean, also, like, I feel like it's more fun if you already know a bunch of people that are also going to be there. Like, if you just show up and you're like, "Hi, I'm just some guy," like,
Dude,
it's probably not as fun.
You
We-
just have to like know a group of people that you can meet there, right? Like, and then every year you make like more friends.
Yeah,
And it
like we've
gets more and more fun.
talked about it. It's like a game. Each year you level up. Now you might level up some, or you might level up a ton. Mel and I leveled up a ton every year we went, and it was just nuts. Like, I mean, you meet all the creators that you've kind of like, you know, and I don't know, like, because I've only went as a creator, so I don't know how it pertains to someone who doesn't create. But you know, you see these different people. You've either talked to them maybe a little bit on Discord, or you've seen their stuff, but like you just walk up to them, you say, "Hey, hi," and then you know you start just like leveling up by meeting people, and all of a sudden, like you're getting invited to the parties, you're getting to do all kinds of stuff, and it is phenomenal, dude. It's phenomenal. So
It's a lot of fun.
yeah,
I better start saving up.
well, and you'll see a ton of people. See, TwitchCon was only amazing because we just happened to get lucky and have had a bunch of people on the show that were staying in the big streamer house, the big creator house, and so we got to just like hang out with all of those guys, which just made it a completely different thing than when like Mel and I go to Kansas City Comic-Con, right? Like it was just a huge hangout party, and yeah, if you end up going, you'll definitely be able to come hang out with us, and we will introduce you to as many people as we possibly can, and then the ball's in your court, buddy.
Oh boy.
Oh man, but yeah, I was
Sounds like
so
it'd be fun,
excited.
yeah.
So excited. All right.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of
Sun
fun.
will hurt my skin though.
Yeah, I know. What was that old
Don't worry, you're inside
commercial?
most of the day, and then you drink inside at night. So really, the minimal exposure.
That's a relief. And also,
worry.
I don't even drink, so there's one less thing that could ruin my deathless run.
It's true. Yes, that will help a lot.
True. There was an old commercial where they got people back outside. They're like, "Get off your computers and come back outside." And all the people were walking out. They're shielding their eyes from the sun. They were like all like, I forget what it was for though. Okay, that
Got a
was
Gollum voice. It hurts us.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I told you guys news was going to be short. So the last piece of news is we've got the most recent data mining achievements, moves, everything else from the most recent Wrath Classic PTR build, and we'll put the link in the notes. But there's like, you know, it's not much, but there's a few different things. The one thing that I wanted to point out though is the Soul of Iron Season of Mastery feat of strength achievement got added in, and so did Survivor of the Fire Lord, which was defeat Ragnaros without ever dying. But it was only in the Season of Mastery. Now,
So that's for when you transfer from Psalm to Wrath, you get those.
that's what the article on Wowhead said. But I feel like what this is my good old Fieldscraft, and I do have a little bit of evidence to back it up, but I feel like this means Soul of Iron and Survivor of the Fire Lord is actually getting added into Wrath. So promoting anyone who wants to do hardcore on Wrath with the Soul of Iron buff. Now,
like stop at 60, do rag, get the.
I don't know.
Yeah,
That'd be interesting.
I don't know if it would.
I don't see how you'd stop at 60 because we can't turn off the experience.
Like, well, they'll have to. You can turn off experience in Wrath.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, because like people do it for twinks and stuff like that.
Yeah, both of my level 29 twinks have it off. But the reason I believe this is getting added in is because when they gave free transfers from Season of Mastery, I moved my hardcore rogue and my hardcore druid, who have Soul of Iron level 60 achievement. I moved them to Wrath servers, and that achievement was already in my book. So that's what makes me think that this means that they're actually adding Soul of Iron to Wrath. And so this is your first hardcore. I don't even know if you've went and done this, but you can't, I don't think you can do it in era servers, but in Season of Mastery, you could go to this one NPC in either Ironforge or Orgrimmar, and you could literally turn on a buff that would show everybody else you were hardcore. It was something people kind of required you to show when like you did your dungeons, like it, and so like it was something you could turn on and off, but you could only turn it on if you had never died. So I think they're bringing it to Wrath. It could be crazy, but I don't know.
Sounds cool. There is one thing that I would like to highlight from the Datamined stuff.
Shoot.
There's a bunch of stuff that's all mixed in with like updates that they made to like the boss abilities and things like that for like the hard modes and whatever. And mixed in there, it's almost like it's kind of snuck in, is the proc from the dark matter trinket is in there, and it was the critical strike rating that the proc gives was increased from 612 up to 647. So that was a thing that was not in previously. Like if you looked at it on Wowhead, it still said 612. So that means that they buffed dark matter for the rest of the things that had their item level increase. So that proc got buffed too, which means that anybody who's been simming the difference between different trinkets or whatever, we may need to update the sims to reflect this change to that trinket. But that's the one thing that I wanted to highlight.
What is dark matter?
It's a trinket that drops from Algalon on 10 man.
Yeah, it says your melee and range attacks have a chance to increase your critical strike rating by, it was 612 for 10 seconds, and now it's 647.
Okay, cool.
So not a huge bump, but as it is now, like some classes have been simming the difference between like Comet's Trail and Dark Matter to see like, because Comet's Trail obviously going to be very contested. So Dark Matter is kind of like the consolation prize for some folks, and it'll be potentially a little easier to get because it's 10-man. Who knows? 10-man Algalon might end up being harder. We'll see. But either way, the fact that that trinket is now a little bit stronger means that the gap has closed a little bit between Dark Matter and Comet's Trail.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, that's going to end us for the news. Told you to be short and sweet. Let's move on to...
Bobby, we need to have a talk about this World of Warcraft Classic. Do I look like I know what a WoW token is?
All right, let's get to know Tableslam. So, Tableslam and I have gotten to know each other quite well, so I might ask questions that I already know the answer to, but you guys at home do not know. He's a from what I know, actually, this is one question I haven't asked him. It's a fairly new creator, but we're going to get into when he started and all of that jazz. But the first thing I want to know is, when did you start playing WoW? Any version, and then when did you stop, or did you stop?
Oh boy. Well, I started playing the Christmas before Burning Crusade came out. So I was very confused when pre-patch came out and talents reset and a bunch of stuff changed. I didn't know what was going on, but I was like a kid back then. So also it was like, oh, whatever. That's just what happens in the game, I guess. Sometimes these things change. And of course, like throughout the course of the game, anytime they made any changes that were like significant enough, they would reset the talents anyway. So like, it just seemed like a normal thing to me. But,
right.
So Christmas for TBC came out. It was when I started playing. Played pretty consistently all the way up until Warlords, and then pretty much got my like garrison all set and like fully completed and whatever. And that was around when I stopped playing. And then I was like exploring other games. Other things were going on in my life as well. I had less time to play games, but I was trying out games like Rift and Star Wars: The Old Republic and like Terra, and pretty much like name any MMO that came out between then and now, and I probably tried it.
It's fair.
I tried Star Wars: The Old Republic like right at the beginning, and then was one of the like probably the like top 10% of first like max level characters, and it was like, oh, there's nothing really to do. I guess I'll PvP. And then when I found out that the PvP, the way they set it up at the beginning, like, was worse than WoW. Like, it took more time, and Hutball was so fucking good too, which sucked because it was so good. But like, dude, to get the gear, I was like, I did the math and I was like, well, I'll be geared fully by the time
3 years.
Right by the time the season's over. And then I want to at least be able to get max geared. Like, I feel like a good, compromise is if I play as much as I can, I should be able to get fully geared by at least halfway through the season and be able to have a good time fully bissed out. Like,
yeah, actually use the gear.
Yeah, that's the way I feel it should be for PvE, everything, right? Like, yeah. And like it was not that way, and I was just like, okay, well, I guess that's when I quit MMOs forever, because I quit Kata right when Star Wars came out, and then
it's a good story though. Like, that was like, I've always been really into the story of whatever games I play, which is why I liked WoW so much, because I played the RTS games. Not a ton, but enough to know what the story was. And that was why I was into WoW. And Star Wars Old Republic had a great story, and each class has its own little spin and everything like that too. So I had a lot of fun with that for sure.
It was really cool. Like Mel and I actually went back, I don't know, a year or so ago, and just played for like, I don't know, 6 hours one night, just working up Jedi, because we were both the dark side prior, so
yeah, seeing the other side is definitely cool.
Yeah, so yeah, we did that, but okay, so
and then I came back there in like BFA, like right at the end of BFA, or right at the end of Legion, just before BFA.
Okay.
Because I'd always told myself, oh, if they ever do a Burning Legion expansion, I'll totally come back to the game. And then they did Legion, and I just somehow didn't hear about it. I don't know if just the marketing material missed me or if I just wasn't paying attention, but I basically missed Legion, and I was so mad at myself because I was like super excited to play a Legion expansion and didn't really get to. Like, Illidan was always my favorite character. He's voiced by one of my favorite voice actors. So like all of that, I totally missed it, and I was so mad at myself. But I played through a bunch of BFA. I got that achievement to like the whatever the one to like have like the highest wanted level or whatever, and get 10 more KBs. And I cheesed it. I stood right on top of a world quest and killed people in war mode as they were coming out of the world quest. You know, classic rogue stuff. But yeah, that was fun. I played season 1 of Shadowlands, and then pretty much after I didn't get KSM, I was about to do like the full run that would have got me KSM, and then Nax came out in WoW Classic, and I was like, okay, sorry retail, time to play Classic again.
All right, so that brings me to my next question. When did you start with Classic, and why did you come back? Well, why did you come back, and then tell us when you started first, and then why.
I started playing Classic right at the start, like immediately as soon as it was available. I like they did the thing where you could like log on to whatever server and like reserve your name or whatever, and I did that pretty much right away. Reserved a name, and I was like itching to get into it, man. Like, and it was mostly because like I just after having played a bunch of retail, I was like, man, I really wish I really miss the way the game used to be. Like the old talent trees, like the class flavor and everything like that. Like I miss all of it. And then when they announced that Classic was happening, I was like, it's like they read my mind and were like, here you go, bud.
Yeah, what you didn't know is there were a whole ton of private server players and a whole movement I didn't know this either, trying to get them to like make the old game.
Yeah, like I had for a long time they had a subreddit for what was it, like the Elysium Project or something like that. And it was like a private server for vanilla. And like, I never played it. I was just keeping tabs on it to see what was happening. And then I heard about Nostalrius, and I was going to make a character on Nostalrius. And literally 2 days after I downloaded the client, got it installed. And then 2 days later they shut it down. And I was like, okay, well,
I guess I'm not doing that.
But then there was another private server that was running before Classic was actually launched. I can't remember what it was called, but I know that the server that I played on had the same name as like that burned out town in EPL. Can't remember the name of the whole server. I think it was Lights Hope, maybe.
Yeah. See, I didn't play the private servers either. I had heard about them, but always thought they were like. I'm not a big fan of not knowing my characters gonna be there the next day, you know.
Yeah,
I'm not a Cargos came on the show the other day. I'm definitely not like him and Grays. Like I'm not I want fresh. Like I want like a timeline, and like if I was like that, I would just do nothing but play WoW. Like I want the whole point to where I get to where I can like raid log and do some other stuff. Like, so.
Yeah, I had fun though. Like there was one of the servers I played on. It wasn't like one of the like big private servers, but it was like a group of people that were they were planning on having a Classic guild. And I somehow got into the group because they were like, oh, we need like a couple of rogues. And I was like, I know how to play rogue. Like I'll play rogue. So one of them made like a private server for just us to like practice Nax on. So like they had vendors, they opened up GM Island. I went to GM Island, got all my full bis from GM Island, including the Saffron Shoulder enchant. And I went Seal Fate Dagger and was tearing it up. It was so much fun. Seal Fate was so much fun in vanilla. And then Classic was announced, and I was like, okay, here we go. Let's get into it. And then I don't know. I somehow missed them, or I don't know what ended up happening. Like they either decided not to do it anymore. So I just picked a random server, rolled on that, got disconnected when I was like level 12. I decided I wanted to make a warrior this time for some reason, because I've only ever really played rogues, and I made a warrior. I was like, I feel like I want to tank. I would like to tank. So I'm going to play a warrior.
Dude, I did the same thing you did. I played rogue. I played the majority of my time prior in vanilla and Wrath and TBC. Like we kind of just like half played only PvP. Like we only did PvP. We did no raiding except for like a couple different times we got in different things just to try to get like some item that would have been good for PvP, but it was really, we didn't really like like play it much. So in TBC, I was a lock, but in both vanilla and in Wrath, I was a rogue. But coming back to Classic, I got all this masterclass thing. I was, saw Cargos talking about, Warrior masterclass, and I was like, I'm gonna try Warrior, and they used to beat the crap out of me as a rogue in both vanilla and in Wrath. It was a hard thing to see that in TBC, like, rogues actually could stand a chance against warriors pretty good. That was a little rough for me, but yeah. Wait, did I say that right? Rogues could stand a chance against warriors. Yeah.
They got a little bit better at toe to toe for sure.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh yeah, I'll do a warrior. But okay, go back into it. Sorry about that.
It's all good, man. I don't know what made me decide I wanted to main a warrior. Like I had, like back in original Wrath, I had a prot warrior alt that I just leveled through the dungeon finder, and it was a ton of fun. So I had enough experience, and I leveled a paladin the same way in Kata through the dungeon finder as a tank. So I was like, I knew how to tank at that point, but it was only dungeons. I had never tanked a raid. So I was like, I want to tank raids, and I can't think of a better way to get into raid tanking than by tanking 40-man raids. That sounds like fun. So I decided I wanted to make a warrior. I made him a dwarf because I wanted stone form. I looked ahead and I was like, let's see, when is the time that I would really like to have dwarf racials? And one of them was AQ because of the poison damage on Huhuran. And the other one was the extra frost resist for Saffron, even though that didn't really end up mattering, but we'll gloss over that.
Well, if you wanted the best DPS, though, it should have been human.
Should have been human for sure. Yeah.
Or
and like,
orc.
Technically, best threat is also human because of the weapon skill thing. But I was like, well, I could just get a pair of gloves that will give me the human racial, but a little bit better, and I have stone form.
Yeah, the easy gloves to get. Yeah, those are
super
so
easy ones.
So easy.
The ones that I farmed Furbolgs for like probably 30 something hours.
Dude, I got lucky. So when Yip in our guild used to be a host on the show. Yip bought them. I'm trying to think of what the name. I can't even think of the name of them.
Edge Masters.
Yeah, he bought the Edge Masters gauntlets for like pennies, right? And then
before people knew they were good.
Yeah, all of a sudden, YouTubers made the videos, and then all of a sudden, they just jumped up huge on white mane, and they just kept going up. And I don't know if I ever would have gotten them if Sylv in our guild, shout out brother, miss you. Hadn't he had like 5. He was a multi-boxer with five mages. He loaned me the gold to buy it, and then Mel and I spent countless hours in Moradon because we weren't geared enough yet as a priest warrior to do jump runs. If she would have been a pally, we could have done it, but her not being able to take poison off made that last boss extremely hard until we got more gear. But
well, if you had rolled a dwarf.
True. So, well, no, but she would have had to roll a dwarf, and she would never do that because they're ugly. So
yeah, even though Fear Ward is really good.
Yep.
Their looks are.
We had 3 human priests in our vanilla guild. Like, it was hilarious.
I mean, arguably the spirit bonus was good.
Yeah, not like Fear Ward, but yeah. So we farmed for.
We recycled the dwarf priests. We had like 6 or 7.
Yeah, we farmed for like 6 weeks to pay him back. As the price, by the time we paid him back, the price had doubled, like over doubled, and so.
Oh my god!
Yeah, and so like there, like I wouldn't even got it. But sorry, go right ahead.
Yeah, Edges was something else, man. But yeah, I was deep prot for a while, then eventually went Fury prot, and honestly, my threat was fine. Like Bis threat is human, but like, yeah, Bis threat is if you're good at playing the class. Like, you're playing a human isn't automatically going to make you like immediately super Bis, and that goes with literally every single class race combo. Is if you're good at it, it doesn't matter what race you're playing because you're still going to be better than the average player.
Well, and also another thing to add, I was human. Why, Bob, then did you need edge masters? Let me tell you, we did not see one drop of the sword from Ani, or like we had no sword drops until like it was like they weren't good anymore. So we had.
So you were stuck with daggers?
We had 5 of the axes drop from Ani. Like we had all of this crap. Like we were just so unlucky with weapons that I didn't get to change to mace sword until we were into AQ. And then I did get my chromatic blade for the offhand, and like I did get some good shit later, but like, yeah, I had to have it because I had axes. Like
I was a dagger boy. I had edgies, and then my main hand was Perdition's Blade from Rag, and then I got Dragon Fang Blade from Veilstraz, and those were my weapons all the way until Nax, and my threat was still fine.
Wow. Hey.
And we had 2 warriors who had Thunder Furies. We had a human who was Fury Prod, and we had another dwarf who was Fury Prod. They both had Thunder Fury, and like I was keeping up on threat. In some ways, I was glad that I never got one. That's just the cope that I used to make myself feel less bad about never seeing bindings.
It made you a better player.
Because you're, if you're
same
underdog mentality.
Yeah, same thing happened to Yip. He got one binding, but never the other.
Yeah. So I learned how to do snap threat really well because I had to. I had no other choice. I got like the engineering shield and stuff to swap in. I made macros for swapping in stuff for some AoE threat. Got really good at tab sundering. I rebound the bar slot that I use for heroic strike. I rebound that to mouse wheel so I could literally just have it perma-Q to just spam the mouse wheel. Like not having a Thunder Fury forced me to be a better tank. So in a lot of ways, I'm glad I didn't get one, but also I would have rathered have one.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well,
so that was fun.
All right, well, I don't. We gotta kind of. I'm trying to watch the time here, but I do want to ask you, Horde or Alliance?
That one's interesting. I was Alliance way back in the day when I first started, and then partway through Wrath, swapped to Horde, stayed Horde the rest of the way. Like my current guys on retail, if I were to log in, they're all Horde. But I decided that I wanted to go back Alliance for Classic to have like the full throwback experience.
Same. We were Alliance in vanilla, then TBC through Kata, we were Horde.
It's definitely interesting with the story. Like you missed some parts of the story for sure. Like switching Horde, I didn't switch Horde until we had already cleared normal ICC by the time I switched. So the only patch that I fully played as Horde was the Ruby Sanctum patch in Wrath.
Oh, wow.
So like I missed the entire Horde story for Wrath, which meant that I was missing a huge chunk of the story going into Kata and beyond because I didn't know what was going on Horde side. So like I had a little weird disconnect from the story from that part, which I think kind of snowballed into me leaving the game during WoD.
Interesting. Yeah. I didn't even think about that either. Like how different the different stories were. Like I never really paid attention.
That only matters if you care about the story. That's the thing. Like if you didn't really care about the story, it didn't matter at all. But like I did, so it hit me a little bit differently than I thought it would.
See, playing retail, I care about the story way more now because so many things are voiced. I don't like to read. I never have. Like the biggest thing in gaming that ever happened to me was when everything started to be voiced. Like I hated reading like long things. But okay, so what classes have you played in vanilla, TBC, and Wrath, regardless of classic or retail?
I've only really played like I've Rogue, of course, like that was always my main. Warrior from Wrath onwards, and then going back to Vanilla Classic, I played a Warrior again through TBC. And I had literally the only time I'd ever played Druid, which is my main now. My very first WoW character ever was a Druid because I used to play Diablo 2. I thought WoW Druid was going to be the same thing. It wasn't. So that's when I went Rogue because my buddy was like, hey, you're in cat form a lot. Just play Rogue. So I was like, okay, played Rogue. And then in TBC, I had heard that like, you know, Warrior main tanks were going to kind of drop off a bit and that they would eventually be replaced by bears. So like, well, okay, then I'll level a Druid so that when that time comes, then I can switch easily enough. So I leveled the Druid just before TBC came out and then ended up liking it a lot. And I liked it so much that I ended up main swapping before Druids even overtook Warriors in the first place. And I was from then on, basically from like late phase 1 of TBC onwards, I was a Druid main.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that was, I feel fake, like kind of fake news though at the same time. Druid was definitely easier to play tank-wise, but many people did finish out tanking as warriors. You know, we got Zyrene and many others that definitely were able to do it. It was just a lot harder with gearing and hitting a lot more buttons and
PvPing to get pieces and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there was just a lot more to it, but you were completely able to do. I mean, Zyrene did it, you know, every week, you know, and Zatar too. Like you just had to like change your gear for different like fights and everything. But yeah, I've still just to this day say that Druid was just easier, not better.
For sure. I like when I first switched to Druid, I didn't feel as safe because I didn't have any buttons to press when I felt like I was in trouble. I had to completely trust my healers. And like I know I always ran with good healers, and I have healed. Like one of the other classes I've experienced playing is Pally. I've healed and tanked on a Pally. Even back then and now I have a Pally alt that I tank and heal on. So like I know what it's like. Like I feel like playing a healer, especially a tank healer, has helped me a lot with my tanking. So not having any buttons to press as a Druid in TBC felt very like I was looking for ways like, okay, I got a swing timer now. I'm going to try and sneak in a bark skin between swings. Like I was doing some risky stuff just to feel safer.
Gotcha.
But like, I still like Warrior. I just liked Druid more. That's why I switched. It's not like I stopped liking Warrior. I just had so much fun playing the Druid that I was like, this has to be my main.
The only time I've played a Druid was in Season of Mastery Hardcore, and I absolutely loved it. Like just the power of being able to switch to so many different roles on the fly was so fun. Like
brings up the ceiling level of the class quite a bit, right? Because you do have so many options and you can pick from so many different toolkits that you really have to know so much more about your class than you do with any other character, right?
Yep.
Like there's no way, like I'm a disciplined priest and I'm not going to swap into shadow form to do something real quick and then swap back out, right?
Yeah, but as
I can't do that. I'm aware.
Right, but yeah, like as a feral druid, you could be like, "Oh, I'm gonna pop out and do some spot heals really quick."
Right.
Like, and like even and you can
and I'm
gonna
go to bear form. I'm gonna go to cat form. I'm gonna go to heal form. Right, like there's just so many different things, and then power shifting and all that stuff. Oh my god.
Well, power shifting's gone at least now, but like I mean, just swapping. Say like anytime you swap back to druid form, you throw on or to just like your regular form where you could do heals. You throw on a healing weapon and offhand, just to get like a little bit more oomph, like for the like small amount of heals that you can put out. Like there's so much tech you can do with a druid. Yeah. It's nuts. And you just feel really powerful.
One of the things people say is that Druid in general sweats the hardest for the least gain.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Funny.
Except for maybe
I
Boomkins.
thought-
Boomkins actually see some decent returns on the sweat that they put in, but Feral, not so much.
Yeah. I thought I could go. I leveled the druid in TBC and I was going to PvP with it. And then I realized I'm not that good because there's a lot that goes into healing in
It's the
PvP
hardest.
with like swapping and shit. And I was just like,
It's the
nope.
hardest healer to play in TBC also. I don't know about Wrath, but in TBC, like you're switching to bear to like interrupt.
Yeah. You take Feral Charge in your PvP healing set. It's crazy.
Yep, and then you're using Cat to be
It was
like
too much.
Like in
And I was like maining my priest, right? So like I was just doing this for PvP and like not that often. It was just, nope. I was like, I'm not gonna PvP. I'm done. I'm over it.
Okay, so let's talk about your content. Let's start with the YouTube. So your YouTube has been catching traction as of late. You know, you've moved into the 1K subs crew where you can monetize and everything. When did you start that YouTube?
This particular channel I started during like before TBC came out, and the first video on my channel is a warrior video because at the time I was still a warrior main, and it was a video about like how things change for prot warriors going into TBC. And then like the next 2 videos were also, or the next 3 videos were warrior videos. And those were like all over a year ago. And then I didn't make any videos at all after that until like 3 months ago. And I started doing feral stuff. Mostly like I streamed like my pre-patch day and stuff like that. And then from then on, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make feral videos. So I didn't do anything for a long time, and then 3 months ago I started to I was like, you know what, I'm gonna actually do this.
Nice. Okay, so you kind of started as like I'm just gonna see what I wish I would have watched like one of your first videos now before we did this, because I assume you've leveled up with like how you edit and everything.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah, so
it's always so cringe to go back and like watch or listen to like one of the first things you did in a series, right? You're just like, wow.
Yeah, I literally just turned on the camera and talked for like 40 minutes, and I just no cuts, no edits, and I was like, what was I doing? Who's gonna watch that?
Hey man, people tune into this. Oh man, so yeah, but definitely not as many. Like if you're going to be making guides and things of that nature, like it requires a lot of editing, a lot of cuts. So most recently, like one of the I met you a few weeks ago and like checked out your stuff. You didn't tell me you were a content creator like until later on, and then I had to figure it out by watching Go's podcast, Go and Grifton, and then I was like, oh, okay. But then you came out with this armor penetration video that was amazing, and you used the same data that I used to research armor penetration for Rogue, and I was like, oh. Why don't I make those type of, like, if I'm going to like research something a ton, why don't I do that? But it's just not my thing. I'm a podcaster and I'm not a video maker.
All laziness. I'm just,
you could do it if you did all the research. I mean, that's the research you would have done to make a video like that anyway.
Yeah, well, there's a lot that goes into the editing process and everything too. But I really loved the armor pen video, but like tell us a little bit about like what type of content you are focused on and focusing on in the future.
First of all, thanks for the kind words. The stuff that I like to make is basically like the videos that I wish I had when I was first learning how to play a feral druid, or like eventually the plan is to have one of every melee class and just make melee videos and just apply the same concept to that. Like what video do I wish I had when I was first starting to play this class, and then just make a video for my past self essentially. And like the way that I try and analyze things when I'm first learning something, I basically try and satisfy those criteria during the video. Like, okay, like what is this thing? What does it mean? Why does it matter? Why should I care? How does it change over time? Like things like that. So that like, it's not just like spouting off a bunch of stuff for somebody to memorize. It's like, I'm trying to help people understand the way the game works so that they can figure some of the stuff out for themselves later on as well. They can intuit certain things that they might not otherwise be able to if they were just told things and told to remember them instead of understanding why it works that way. Because that's the way that my mind works when I'm trying to learn stuff. So I figured there's got to be at least a few people out there whose minds work the same way that would appreciate that sort of video. And for the people that don't care about that stuff, I put timestamps in all the videos anyway so they can skip over the boring math.
Dude, so basically, I love this about certain creators, and we've had them on the show, and I pointed out every time, you're a creator that focuses on the why. The why in everything in life, guys. I could be wrong, maybe, but I think I'm right. The why is the biggest thing. If you just know the how, then when you run into a roadblock, you're not going to you don't know the why, so you don't know how to do something different because you just know how. Like,
right.
And it's a huge problem with like millennials and sorry, I don't want to offend anybody. Like I'm one of the first millennials, but
elder millennial
or not.
Yes, I could show you studies, and that's why I was the weird kid growing up. But yeah, knowing the why.
No, I can't let that slide. You're not the weird kid because of that. If you're a millennial, then everybody in your class is a freaking millennial, okay?
No, that's not how it works.
Oh.
Here. All right, well, we're not going to get into this conversation during this, but yeah,
it's generations reloaded.
You have a millennial mindset.
Okay.
But millennial
I can
is
go with that.
Like a date range.
Yeah, I was one of the first. Like,
okay, so everybody in your class was also
Mel. The millennial mindset didn't just like one day snap your fingers and every kid is like this. No, it was like a slow burn.
Because I am a millennial and I am not a millennial.
Oh, where's that sound redeem?
All right. Well, we're not going to get into this.
And Bob, you're wrong.
Yes.
Oh,
agreed.
Oh my God.
Did you forget to turn them off?
I forgot to pause it. All right. So, all right. Where was I?
It's the why. You're right, though. It is the why.
Yes.
Like that's what's important to me. Like when I'm learning things, I like to know why it is the way it is instead of just the way it is. Because like you said, like if you run into a roadblock, it's a lot easier to understand the situation and to solve the problem for yourself instead of being like, oh, I hit this roadblock. Now I'm just bad. Like now my DPS is just awful because I don't know what to do now. But if you understand why you're doing the things you're doing, you can adjust. And like, especially for a class like Feral Druid, like literally that's how you play Feral is you're just adjusting constantly. Every single second, everything you're about to do, you evaluate every action you're about to do based on everything else that's going on. So you have to have that mindset when you play a Feral Druid. So that's why my videos are structured the way that they are. It's kind of like training people to think like a Feral so that when they run into those problems, they can solve them more easily by knowing why they're doing the things they're doing.
Well, and
so do you think that hold on. Do you think so? There's certain classes where you play and you have a specific rotation and you kind of just follow that rotation, right? Which I think leads to less understanding of the why. Whereas then there's classes where you're very kind of reactional or, based on the certain situation or whatever's happening around you, you have to do X, Y, or Z, right? And I think that for classes like that, like the Paladin was the first character I've ever played where it was like, yes, you have these other tools in your bag, but for the most part, you're kind of going through this rotation, right? Unless, crisis happens. And it was so weird to me to not be attending to all the other aspects in the environment. And I don't know what half of my goddamn spells do, to be honest. I don't know what
paladins
they do.
have a huge toolkit, but like to your point, like especially something like a prop paladin, where like pretty much you only put 1 point into the talent that reduces the cooldown of judgment, so that all of your stuff is either a 6-second cooldown or a 9-second. That's like perfect for lining things up. Like that's a good example of like a set rotation type of thing. Like there are a lot of classes that are like that. Feral's not one of them.
So So you're basically saying like your videos are focused on feral specifically.
For now, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so
for now it's that.
That brings up another question, like because now the armor pen, like the armor pen video specifically was interesting because I believe that's an armor pen guide for all classes. Now, yes, it will affect them differently, but the data that you went through is just basically the armor pen data. So why don't you market those types of videos with like more armor pen for all classes? Or are you just not comfortable saying that it's like armor pen for all classes?
For that video specifically, the whole time I was making the video, I was making it from like a feral perspective. Like I was making it for feral druids. And then I realized afterwards, I was like, oh, a bunch of the people that are watching this are not feral druids. Like there's a lot of Fury Warriors watching this. There's a lot of combat rogues watching this. There's some marksman hunters watching this. I need to make sure that I change the title of this video so that it says feral perspective in there so that people don't think that, because like at one point in the video, I talk about like the threshold at which armor pen overtakes your primary stat in value for like when you start stacking it on your gear, like in your gem slots and whatever. And like the threshold is going to be different for every class because every class has a different stat weight for their primary stat. And the one that I go over in the video is for ferals specifically. And that's why I felt like I had to like change the title of the video, because it was like people were like, oh, okay, cool. So it's 400 for me too. It's like, no, it might not be. Like, just hold on, wait, it might not be. It's 400 for feral, might not be for the other classes, especially something like a warrior. Warriors get the talent now. Yeah, but also warriors get the talent that increases their strength by 20%. That's way more strength than ferals get from talents. So the Fury Warrior threshold is going to be higher than the feral threshold because strength is worth more for feral or for Fury Warriors than it is for ferals. So like little stuff like that. And for rogues, it might be a little different too, because like rogues also get attack power from strength, but they don't gem for it. They're gemming for either agility or hit. So like at which point, you know, does armor pen overtake hit as the thing that you're gemming for, etc. Like it's going to be a different threshold for every class because every class has so many different intricacies that affect their stat weights. Yeah. So in the video, I say 400, but that's just the feral one. It's going to be different for every class. I don't know the data for every class. So that's kind of, I was backtracking a bit. As soon as I released the video and I saw that more than just ferals were watching it, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, for combat rogue, it's from the research that I've done and just remembering what I swapped back in the day, it's somewhere between 300 and 400, like just base value with gear and gems, and then it is only that with a grim toll or the other armor pen trinket. So like it's very intricate and weird, and then Simon Eyes, you know, he's the guy that knows it all, and he hasn't completely, you know, he doesn't like combat, so he just won't make a guide, even though I pester him about it all the time, and he probably gets annoyed with me, but I'm going to keep going for you, for the
Honestly,
people.
I mean, I played combat back in the day. I might be able to whiz something up.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
The goal is to make videos for melee generally, because I've played half the melee classes already. I just got to play the rest, and then I can start doing videos on everything instead of just feral.
Well, if you need a little help on the collab, I would be willing to donate my rogue to the PTR one night for us to do some testing.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. That'd be fun.
All right, so yeah, you're basically just you're gonna focus on feral point of view content going forward, but you also stream.
For now, he said. For now.
Eventually I'll do other stuff, but for now it's just feral. Yeah. But I do stream mostly. Like I stream raids like on Wrath. I stream most of my Wrath raids on YouTube, and then starting this past Thursday with the hardcore event, I've been streaming on Twitch now also. But I basically kind of have it separated. Like I stream all the hardcore stuff on Twitch, and then I stream the Wrath stuff on YouTube.
Interesting.
Because most of my audience for Wrath content was already on YouTube, so it kind of makes sense to go there. And a lot of the hardcore community is on Twitch, so it kind of makes sense to do that stuff there.
Okay,
That makes sense.
okay.
And it kind of separates them because it's probably two different crowds for the most part, right?
Yeah, like there's a few people in my chat when I do hardcore streams that came over from YouTube.
Right.
So I got like a couple of people that chill in my chat for that stuff, and I've even gotten a couple of them into hardcore as well. So
There you go.
Nice.
I held out for so long on hardcore. I was like, that
it's so
sounds so
fun.
stupid.
It
And
makes
it's
me
so
wish
fun.
I'd gotten into it way sooner. Like I would have loved to have done Road to Rag and everything. If
Same.
only I knew that it was a thing. Like I kind of knew a little bit, but I was like, nah.
I started 3 weeks late in Road to Rag, and in all honesty, if I wanted to be in that raid group, I would have needed to do hardcore for months prior to have the skill set to actually make it to Road to Rag, because you'll find you learn so much. Like it's absolutely crazy. So yeah, I wish I would have started the first time I had Winky and Duranosaur to tell me about it. I should have started then.
Yeah, shout outs to Winky and Duranosaur. Big shout outs. And Cargos, of course.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. So yeah, that basically covers my next question. Like, you know, if you're checking out your stream on, and all these links will be in the show notes, guys. But if you're checking out your stream on YouTube, it's going to be like your raids. And if you're checking out the streams on Twitch, it's going to be hardcore for now. And who knows? I mean, you're not an affiliate, right? On Twitch.
I need to stream. I'm going to probably stream either today or tomorrow. And that'll be like, I already have the average view count and the followers. So I just need to, at this point, stream for one more day and I can apply for affiliate.
Nice. I mean, that's basically like I was doing the Overwatch podcast, and I just was like, one day was like, I'm going to stream, and did it for a week and a half or two and got affiliate and then stopped streaming. The only reason I stream now is directly because of hardcore. And I wanted an actual record of every second that I played the character.
This is before the add-on?
No, it was when the add-on came out, but I was doing the Warcraft Reloaded podcast. I didn't want any BS. Like I wanted to prove that I did it. And then it just got me comfortable with being on stream. And now I just don't, I almost never play without streaming. I might jump on and turn in my jewel crafting daily or something, but like I almost always just play on stream, period.
Yeah, a lot of people that stream that are big now started with hardcore. Like Qwik started out with streaming hardcore.
Yep.
Yeah.
He actually, like, in his interview just like yours here now, he told us that during his first Warcraft Reloaded.
Yeah.
That he started out. Yeah.
Yep.
He's been streaming it like a lot lately. Like I think he might even be on right now doing hardcore, or he might be doing.
I don't know. He's been real addicted to
He's doing dungeons right now
lately. But yeah, he's. I was on talking to him last night. He's doing his rogue.
Yeah, I passed him in the open world because I'm leveling. One of the other tunes that I'm leveling is for a Lord of the Rings role play noob core guild. And I'm playing Radagast the Brown, who is a druid, not a mage, because Radagast is basically a nature wizard. Mm-hmm. And he was questing in the same area of Dark Shore that I was, so I buffed him and like did my RP emote or my RP macro and stuff like that. And he was like, "Oh, okay, that's a thing."
It's awesome. Yeah, Qwik's had a really sad story during the Road to Ragtime. Can't remember exactly what level he was, but it was somewhere around 55. He was in He was in Winter Grasp, and he was across the bridge over there killing those big elite giants. And there's a rare elite mob that's like basically spawned on top of him and killed him. And he was going to be in the Road to Rag run. I think he probably even could have worked up and got back in, but it basically killed the Road to Rag journey for him at that point. It was one of the saddest F's and chat death.
That's rough, dude. You can't help but put your heart out to that one. That's a tough one to hear.
Yeah, there's you're just getting into it now. There's so many F's and chat ones that you would just like die at seeing, because these are level 60s that are gearing like 5-man dungeons was where the danger was. It really wasn't in the raid. You just needed the gear to complete the raid. The 5-man dungeons were nuts. Like, I think the most epic thing I ever saw in Road to Rag was the Ubers run where Sarth and Duradasaur were hunters, and they overpulled in Ubers, and they literally ran out everybody in the raid, and they were calling their traps, and they were calling which way to run, and like Duradasaur was cool as the other side of the pillow, and Sarth was cool as shit, and they were just like basically kiting everything for all the people trying to get out. And then Duradasaur gets out of the door and he goes, ah! Like he was just like, ah. But like it wasn't like I'll see if I can find the clip for the show notes. But it was,
dude, that's how you make friends for life, man.
Yeah, it was.
When you survive something like that.
All right. Well, okay. So the next part of this is we're gonna do a little like Feral 101 guide, but I want you to keep in mind this is 101. So you don't have to go into like extreme crazy tech or anything like that. This is for people who boost a character and now they're level 80 and they want to know how to just do their job in a raid.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, so we're going to just be covering Feral, but let's start out with like, what are the important self buffs or other buffs that you provide for the raid?
One of them is, of course, going to be Leader of the Pack. That's a big one, the crit. And also improved Leader of the Pack. It provides a little bit of healing when you crit with Leader of the Pack. So that can help a little bit with some sustain, can ease a tiny bit of strain from the healers as well. So that's one of the big things, like when people are looking to add a feral to like a raid comp or something like that, one of the big reasons why is the crit buff. It's also shared by Fury Warriors, so it's not like a unique buff or anything like that, but improved Leader of the Pack is the healing that you get from critting while you have Leader of the Pack. That is not something that Fury Warriors can bring. So if that is a thing that they're specifically looking for, then you can provide that with improved Leader of the Pack. And then, of course, there's Mark of the Wild or Gift of the Wild, the raid buff, stats and armor. The typical spec that you'll take, either whether you're tanking or DPSing, is going to put 2 points into improved Mark of the Wild. So you'll be providing the most amount of stats possible with that buff to the entire raid.
So more than, say, a Balanced Druid or Resto Druid would give for Gift of the Wild?
I think typically pretty much all Druid specs will take improved Mark of the Wild, so it's not necessarily any more than they will provide. But if you're doing it, then they don't have to. That's one less thing that they have to worry about. And especially like healers have enough on their plates. You know, anything that anyone can do to ease some of that strain is certainly a
Tableslam trying
thing.
to sell why to take a feral druid. Go ahead, come on. We give you this. Yes, every druid can do it, but you know.
I mean, I know we're not going to dive into like the super like, you know, nitty-gritty stuff, but usually as a feral, you'll want to cast a Gift of the Wild before every boss fight anyway. So no matter what, no matter how many druids are in the raid, if you have a feral in the raid and they're doing a pre-pull gift, then none of the druids have to worry about Mark of the Wild because the feral's going to take care of it anyway.
Okay, and
well, now that you said that, you have to tell us why
you
would
don't.
cast it. No, I want to know.
No, we'll cover that in rotation. All right, I'll just go. We're just gonna cover it over again.
That's fine.
It's for Omen of Clarity. Feral DPS likes to start the fight with an Omen of Clarity proc, and casting a Gift of the Wild on the entire raid is almost a guaranteed Omen proc.
Okay.
And when we get to it in rotation, make sure to describe what Omen of Clarity is.
Yeah.
All right. So, what are the soft caps you need to shoot for? Like for its like hit, expertise, yada yada. And what's the order?
There's going to be a slight difference for Alliance versus Horde for hit specifically because of the Draenei party aura. But it's going to be 8% hit is what you need to shoot for both tanking and for DPSing. And the amount of hit that you will need without the Draenei aura is 263. Let me just scroll to find the exact amount with the Draenei. Okay, yeah, so 263 is without the Draenei, and it's 230 if you do have a Draenei in your party, because that 1% hit from the Draenei just means that you only need 7% instead of 8%. Pretty much everything, it's essentially a feral druid is like a two-handed user. You don't need to worry about like the dual wield hit cap or anything like that because feral druids technically do not dual wield, so you only need 8% total. So again, that's without Draenei Aura, 263 hit rating, and with Draenei Aura, it's 230 hit rating.
Awesome.
And then for expertise, we get 10 expertise from our talents. So because of that, we only need to get a certain amount from our gear. You get, when you have 2 points into that expertise talent, so you get the 10 expertise from that, you're only going to need 132 expertise rating to make sure that you are not going to be dodged by bosses. That's the only one you really have to worry about is the dodge cap. You have to be behind the target anyway to use shred, so you don't have to worry about parry at all. It's just 132 expertise rating with the talents.
I think it's 132 expertise because the rating is what it actually goes into, which is, I assume, 6.25%.
Yeah, you get the rating. The rating is the higher one. It turns into the expertise.
Okay, yeah, my bad. Yep.
So basically, it's like you get enough rating to equate 16 expertise because we get 10 expertise from talents. So 132 rating will get you to 26 total expertise if you have 2 points in the talent.
Got it.
And that's just for bosses. It's a different number against trash and stuff, but we'll just focus on bosses because that's starting to get a little too min-maxy there.
Yeah. And what he's talking about min-maxy is you could drop, if you wanted to for trash, you could drop expertise and do a lot more damage on trash if you really want to. But we're trying to focus on 101, and if you're watching 101, you're not swapping your gear throughout.
Yeah. So for any of the caps that we'll talk about, it's specifically against a level 83 target, which is what bosses are. They're level 83. So against a level 83 target, you need 132 expertise rating to get your dodge cap for expertise, as long as you have 2 points in the talent, which you should have.
Awesome. Yeah. And then like for every melee class, that's the dodge cap. Yes, you can keep going in expertise, but the benefit is really not there because at that point you're only getting less parries instead of parries and dodges.
Right. And for all melee classes, you should be behind the target anyway, so that you don't have to worry about being parried. So for pretty much every melee class, those are going to be the caps anyway, is 8% hit and 26 expertise. That's for every melee class. The exact amount of rating you need to get there may change from class to class because of things like talents and whatever. But for Feral specifically, like I said, 263 if you don't have a Drain Eye, 230 if you don't have a Drain, or if you do have a Drain Eye, and then 132 expertise rating for Ferals specifically if you have the talent.
Awesome. Okay, so what is the stat priority? And we'll just say, what's the stat priority right now? And then maybe you could give the stat priority when you are able to hit the 400 armor pen cap.
Right. So right now in phase 1, there's a couple of different ways to look at stat priority because of the way that people like to, do their min-maxing and stuff like that. A lot of people are saying to emphasize strength, but that seems kind of counterintuitive since most of the stat that you'll find on feral gear is agility. So that's kind of like a counterintuitive thing that, but strength is better, even though we have agility and all our stuff. But you could go with either one. Like strength or agility is, a lot of it is kind of like personal preference. Technically, if you want to like super, maximize your amount, you're going to go for strength, but you could go with agility just to make things simpler for yourself. And you won't really see that much of a difference. But either way, your priorities.
Curious. So, like, is there any agi gear that has, any leather gear that has strength? I don't think there is. Like, so you're only talking about rings and
gems, basically.
Gems, maybe weapons, maybe.
Yeah, there's like a couple of weapons that have strength that are pretty good, but aren't like BIS or anything like that. But it's really mostly we're talking about like gemming and things like that.
Gotcha.
But like in phase 1, there are so few gem sockets available in gear that even if you gem all of those sockets with strength, it's not going to be such a huge difference in your stat total that it's going to be like super noticeable. Like it may be if you're like, if you're in a hyper speed guild or whatever, but if you're boosting a druid to just get into raids, you're not going to notice the difference between gemming for strength versus agility. If you feel more comfortable sticking with agility, then go with agility. If you feel like doing strength, do strength. You probably won't notice the difference.
So what does strength give you versus what does agility give you? Like, I don't understand that even on my pally.
Yeah, it's different it's oftentimes different for every class. So say for instance, feral druids and warriors get 2 attack power for every strength. But then like a rogue gets 1 for every strength. But they get 1 attack power for agility, whereas warriors only get the like chance to dodge and crit from it. So ferals, is it still 1/1 for, or is it still 1 for agi and 2 for strength, or is it the same as warriors?
It's the same. It's like warrior and rogue combined, basically. Ferals get 2 attack power per point of strength and 1 attack power per point of agility.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's kind of why it doesn't really matter that much if you go strength or agility gems, because you're already going to have a ton of attack power from all the agility you have on your gear. And also we don't have a lot of gem sockets. So even if you gem for strength, you're only getting like a little bit more attack power in the long run. It's like to the tune of like a few hundred, but in cat form, like as an example, in my gear, I have almost full BIS. When I go cat form with no buffs, I have almost 8,000 attack power. So like a few hundred is like a drop in the bucket.
Got it.
Gotcha.
So generally speaking, when it comes to like the actual, like what should you prioritize? What type of gear should you prioritize? Like stats on gear and things like that. You want to get to the hit cap as soon as you can. So you want to get to your 8% hit. And then your primary stat is going to be up there in value as well, somewhere around just under or right around the value of hit. But obviously, if you're not hit capped, it may be a better choice to go for hit cap instead of going for, agility or whatever.
Is it always a better choice to go for hit and expertise before you worry about the other stats?
It depends on how close you are to the caps. Like if you're less than 0.5% away from having your hit or your expertise, then it may end up being more of an increase to go for your primary stat. But we have sim tools that can tell you the exact amount you could potentially gain. One of the reasons why the expertise thing is not as crucial for Feral as it is for some of the other classes is Feral has a talent that refunds 80% of the energy on finishing moves if they fail to land, whether it's from a miss, a dodge, a parry, or anything. For whatever reason, if they don't land, and it's just finishing moves, it's not for builders, it's just finishers, you get 80% of the energy refunded. So expertise is still very important because obviously we would prefer for our things to land. But if a finisher doesn't land, at least you can get 80% of it refunded.
Yeah, that's huge.
We got basically in order, we got hit, primary stat, expertise, and then just under expertise, we have crit rating is one of the important ones as well. Crit is the primary way that we get extra combo points. The Feral has a talent that there's a similar talent for rogues as well, but Feral has a talent where if you crit with an ability that grants a combo point, you get an extra combo point. So for an ability like Shred, for example, normally you only get 1 combo point for casting Shred, but if the Shred crits, you get 2 combo points instead. And everything that we do in our rotation is driven by combo points. So the more combo points we can get, the better. So the more crit you have, the better off you are with being able to maintain all of your timers and whatnot, because almost all of our timers are based on combo points and finishers.
Gotcha.
Got it.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you.
After crit, we have armor pen. It's not as important as some of the other stats. It's kind of far down in phase 1 because there just simply isn't very much armor pen available on gear. So to go out of your way to get it could mean that you're placing less of an emphasis on obtaining other stats that may be more beneficial for you in your gear, especially in starter gear. If you're just starting to gear up, don't gun for armor pen because there are other stats that you'll get more out of. Armor pen is more of something that's kind of like a nice little bonus on top of everything else.
And I was going to have you explain it here, but I'm not. Armor pen actually changes quite a bit at a certain point. We're going to have the link to his armor pen video so that you guys can just go and check it out because it will actually explain it correctly. So we'll just go check that link and you'll be happy that you did.
Well, thanks, Bob. And then after armor pen, haste. Haste is kind of low. Haste doesn't really do a ton. The only thing we get out of attacking faster is more procs on Omen of Clarity, which is our clear casting, which procs off of auto swings. So if you have faster auto swings, you will, in theory, get more Omen procs, but there's no internal cooldown on it, and it's very streaky. So to specifically gun for haste is generally not really that good of an idea. Any haste that you have in your gear will just be incidental. You're not going to take any piece of gear because it has haste. You're taking it because of something else, and it just happens to have haste. Like the cloak off of KT is a great example. That's a really, really good cloak. It has haste. We're not taking the cloak because it has haste. We're taking it because of the other stuff that it has. So you will have a decent amount of haste, but you're not specifically aiming for haste.
Gotcha.
And then the bottom two are feral attack power and regular attack power. Feral attack power comes from your weapon. That's something that you only get from your weapon. It's low on the list because it is a huge chunk of your attack power, but when you compare it to some other stats, like if you have to trade a certain amount of feral attack power for a different stat, it may be worth the trade. But generally speaking, there is so much feral attack power on your weapon that's probably never going to happen. Like you probably wouldn't swap out a weapon for different stats because there's just such a huge chunk. And then regular attack power, the reason why that's in the bottom quite simply is we get more attack power from strength than we do from attack power because we have talents and stuff that increase the amount of stats that we get in Blessing of Kings and things like that. So the gain that we get from our primary stats is better than the gain we get from regular attack power. There is a talent we have that increases our attack power by 10%, but the gain that we get from primary stats instead is better. So primary stats are better.
Yeah, 10% as opposed to 50%. Like, I'm not a math genius, but I can do that math.
Yeah, we have some talents. We have like Improved Mark of the Wild gives 2% stats. Survival of the Fittest gives 6% stats, and then Blessing of Kings gives 10% stats. So if you have all three of those, the amount that you're going to gain from like strength is going to be more than you would gain from just like attack power, because the talent we have that boosts attack power is only 10% attack power.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm going to throw you a curveball because it's not in the notes. What is the importance of weapon enchants, and how do they work with feral? Like, do we put berserk? Does that proc? Like, I don't even know, because it used to not proc for ferals.
Right. It didn't proc until Wrath pre-patch, basically. So like in TBC, ferals were using the flat agility two-handed enchant because that was the only one that we could actually benefit from because we couldn't get procs. But as soon as pre-patch for Wrath came out, we were able to get procs. So we basically all switched to Mongoose, which was very nice. But now Berserking is kind of like the premier one, but it's on a proc per minute thing. So basically, no matter how fast we attack, we're still going to get, well, haste will slightly increase it like a tiny bit. But generally speaking, even though we attack, our feral base attack speed is 1.0. So like with the amount of haste that I have on my current gear, my actual base attack is like 0.74 or something like that. So like I swing pretty fast, but Berserking is also one of those very streaky ones because, again, it doesn't have an internal cooldown. So you could go a fight without any Berserking procs, which has happened to me, or you can go a fight where you chain like 6 in a row and you have like 60% uptime on it. So for that reason, one of the alternative enchants is the Massacre enchant, which is the 110 attack power to two-hander. It is on average less damage than Berserking, but it's stable. That's what it has going for it, is it has stability going for it. And we'll talk about a little more in the talents when we talk about talents, but there is a talent that increases the amount of attack power we get from our weapon, and it also applies to Massacre. So you get even more attack power from Massacre than just the 110 because of that talent.
Oh,
so, but Berserking still pulls ahead on average, but Massacre is a lot cheaper. Like if you're buying scrolls in the auction house, Massacre is way cheaper, and it's not really that far behind. So if you are a fresh feral boosty and you're looking to gear up, Massacre is also a very, very solid option for a weapon enchant. And Mongoose is pretty good too. It's not terrible or anything like that, but Massacre and Berserking are definitely ahead of Mongoose.
Definitely if you're running short on money, right? If you don't have a ton of gold and it's not your like super bis, you know,
yeah, like if it's an alt and you're just trying to like get into some raids and 10-mans and whatever, you might not want to drop, 3K on a Berserking scroll. Instead, you could drop like, 800 on a Mongoose or like 1500 on a Berserking and be set.
I mean, if you want to buy my Berserking scroll, that's fine. You should probably do that. But anyone else's, yeah, I'd probably just go with the other option.
Yeah.
So you talked about talents. We actually have never covered talents in 101s because it's like, this is
so many guides.
But this is like a audio podcast first and everything. And I just figure like we're just giving people advice for like the cookie cutter talent spec that they can find. I mean, even someone looking up 101, like they know how to search the spec. So I don't think we'll cover that unless you think it's really important.
There is like one slight difference. Like generally speaking, I would refer most people to the guide on Wowhead that Nerd Egghead wrote. He's a very smart guy. He does a lot of theory crafting. He programmed the Feral sim before we had the GitHub sim. Very smart guy. Big shout out to him for all the work that he's done for ferals. The default, like the kind of cookie cutter build that he lists on Wowhead is for something called bear weaving, which is not something that I would recommend for people trying feral for the first time. So your talent setup may change a little bit, because of the fact that you should not be bear weaving if you are just learning how to play the spec. The one that he lists, there are a couple of talent points that you can swap around. The build that I would recommend for somebody first learning Feral, you would put 5 points into the Feral Aggression talent, which affects the damage of Ferocious Bite. Ferocious Bite is not something that you're going to use very often, maybe once a fight, if that. But the other points that you would put those into are called Protector of the Pack, which increases your attack power in bear form. And that only affects you if you're going to use bear form for damage, which if you're first learning Feral, I would recommend against doing that because it's an unnecessary complication to an already very complicated spec to play. So I would not recommend putting points into Protector of the Pack. I would instead put points into Feral Aggression for the off chance that you are able to use Ferocious Bite more than once in a fight. And if you can't, if you only use it once, then at least it'll do 15% more damage the one time you use it. So generally what you would want to do is instead of putting all 5 points into the Furor talent in the top row of the resto tree, instead you would go 3 points in that talent. You would not put any points in Protector of the Pack, and instead those 5 points would go into Feral Aggression.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. All right.
But that's the only thing that I would change about that.
Yeah. Well, the beauty of this though is like the extra tech stuff kind of just goes into the regular episode, whereas I cut out all the extra stuff for the actual 101 cut down video. So it's not bad to have it in here because anybody that listens to the full episode will benefit from it. Yeah.
You could also use the exact setup that is on Wowhead and be fine. So, either way will work. But again, that's the big thing is that the talent spec that's on Wowhead is for bear weaving, and I would not recommend doing that if you're just learning Feral.
Now, there are differences between Feral DPS and Feral tank, correct?
Yes.
Big differences, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just making sure. We're
the
saying
talent setup is a bit
but
different
there's
as well.
Feral DPS and there's Feral tank, and we're talking specifically about Feral DPS, right?
Yeah. That's probably one of the biggest changes from TBC to Wrath is that in TBC you can use the same spec for both, but in Wrath it is a little different. They separated some of the talents out. But I wouldn't have any, things to change about the recommended build on Wowhead. The one that Nerd Egghead has on Wowhead is the one that I would also recommend for tanking.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get on to single target rotation. So going into a boss, let's go through what your rotation is there. Like for a boss that doesn't have ads that add to your parse.
Right. So we're talking just like a tank and spank, like something like Patchwork then.
Yep.
Okay. So there's a couple things to think about when you are first running in. Before you're actually in melee range, throw up a Fairy Fire, because then nobody else has to worry about it because you did it. Like a Boomkin could do it.
Make yourself useful.
But yeah, the Boomkin doesn't have to do it. So if you do it instead, they don't have to worry about it.
And you can do it in cat form. So
Yep.
So in TBC, there was a different. Can Boomkins apply Feral Fairy Fire?
Nope. That is still different. There is still Feral Fairy Fire and then regular, but now in Wrath they can both be on the target at the same time. Only one will apply. And they changed it so that's a minor armor debuff, 5% armor reduction on the boss. But both can be on the target at the same time, but they don't stack. Like it's still only going to be 5% no matter how many you have on the target. And that was specifically so that Ferals could apply their Fairy Fire without, they wouldn't. Normally in TBC, you would try and do it and it would say a more powerful effect is on, you can't do it or whatever.
Yeah.
So
it does the same thing. Feral Fairy Fire and regular Fairy Fire, they do the same thing? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it does the same thing. The difference now, the Moonkin one, the improved Fairy Fire, increases the spell hit for every caster on that target. But Shadow Priests also bring the exact same thing. They have a dot that puts the hit thing on there. So Boomkins don't necessarily have to be the ones that put the Fairy Fire up. A Feral can do it, and we aren't in melee range for the first couple seconds of the fight anyway. Might as well do it.
Just to throw in, the caster Fairy Fire does also benefit rogues in giving rogues spell hit, which is what we use for our poisons, and that hit, like, it was kind of hard to hit in phase 1. So
a quick question: are we going to go over this later, or is there anything that you should pre-pot or do right before this fight starts?
Yes. So I mentioned a little bit before with Gift of the Wild. So there's a talent, Omen of Clarity, that gives you a chance to get a clear casting proc when you auto attack in cat form, or when you cast heals or damaging spells and things like that. So before the fight starts, what I usually do, and what every feral should do, is if you get a pull timer or whatever, just cast Gift of the Wild during the pull timer. You will probably get an Omen proc. If you don't, just cast it again. The buff lasts for 15 seconds, which is plenty of time to use it. And then the first thing that you do in the fight will cost 0 energy because you have a clear casting proc on you.
Okay, so clear casting, I was just about to ask that. It works for energy or rage moves.
And mana too.
Okay. Well, mana I figured was a given because it's clear casting, right? But energy and rage, that's different for me. Okay, so
yep. So every
mana, rage,
everything you do is
costs.
free. Basically,
Yeah.
The first thing you do with the buff is free.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No matter what resource it is. So that's a helpful thing to have at the start of the fight, because obviously if it's free, free is free. I'd rather have something for free. So yeah, pre-pull Omen proc with the Gift of the Wild cast, and then you go in while you're running in Fairy Fire, and then there's a couple of different things you could do with your very first attack. Generally, it's recommended to use Mangle, Cat Mangle, as your first attack, both to get the bleed debuff up on the target as soon as possible, and also because it's pretty, a good way to spend that Omen proc. You'll end up doing a pretty good amount of damage overall in the fight by opening with a Mangle. The other thing to think about is how many assassination rogues you have and how soon they want to put up Hunger for Blood. If they want to do it right away, you might want to open with Rake instead, just so that there's a bleed on the target so your rogues can use Hunger for Blood. But if they're not going to use it until a couple seconds of the fight anyway, you're fine to open with Mangle.
Letting you guys know, if you have a nice combat rogue, they'll go ahead and open up with a stealth
with a
to bleed. Yep.
Yeah. But generally speaking, it's for simplicity's sake, opening with a Mangle is the easiest way to begin your rotation. Open with a Mangle. And then one of the other things you're going to want to do is to get a Savage Roar up as soon as you can in the fight, as soon as it makes sense to. Savage Roar is a self-buff finishing move that increases the damage we do by 30%. And if you have the glyph, it's 33%. So the earlier you have that up in the fight, the better, because it's going to affect everything else you do while it is active. And since it's a finishing move, you have to have combo points to be able to cast it. So you have to do something first before you can Savage Roar. So that's why you open with either a Mangle or a Rake, so you have combo points, so then you can use Savage Roar.
Got it.
And then after that, your primary ability that you're going to be using to build combo points is going to be Shred, which requires you to be behind the target. And also, it has its damage boosted if you have a bleed on the target and if it has either a Mangle or a Trauma on the target. Trauma is basically the Arms Warrior version of Mangle. It just increases the bleed damage done to the target by 30%. So Shred gets boosted by the presence of a bleed. It doesn't have to be a bleed that you cast. It can be any bleed, and also Mangle or Trauma. So generally,
this is why on Thaddeus, our feral druid gets really mad when he's on the same side as the tank.
Yep, because he can't shred.
Okay.
Yep, you have to mangle instead. That happens to me all the time.
He
I think
does get so salty. Mira, shout out to Mira. We love you, but he gets so salty about it.
I feel your pain,
You
pal.
suck at tanking.
Feel your pain. Yeah, it's Thaddeus is a crapshoot for ferals. So yeah, your primary builder is going to be generally shred. You're going to want to try and maintain as high uptime on Rake as you can as well. Rake is a bleed. It generates combo points when you cast it, and it lasts for 9 seconds. Rake is a pretty decent amount of damage. It's a very efficient way to get damage out of your GCDs is by casting Rake. So you generally want to maintain as high uptime on Rake as you can. So pretty much if there isn't a Rake on the target, put up a Rake. If there's already a Rake on the target, shred. When you get to 5 combo points, you're usually going to want to use it on a Rip. Rip is another finishing move that is a bleed that lasts for baseline 12 seconds, but there's a couple of glyphs that you can get. And the tier set bonus for tier 7, the 2 set bonus increases the duration as well. So by the time you have all of those duration things stacked up, your Rip will last for 26 seconds instead. So you gain an extra 14-second duration just based on having your set bonuses and your glyphs.
Jesus, you weren't kidding. Like, Feral is tough, dude. Like, I mean, I know we like see it if we just look at like Warcraft logs. It's the biggest bar of like people that are good at it and people that are bad at it. But damn.
Yeah, there's a big range.
There's a whole other thing that goes into that too. There's Warcraft logs counts tanks as DPS a lot of the time. So
yeah,
it's rough because of that too. Like the bottom section of feral DPS on Warcraft logs is actually tanks that are being counted as DPS. So
oh, interesting. Okay.
But yeah, generally speaking, your primary builders are going to be Shred and Rake. Your primary finisher for damage is going to be Rip. And other than that, you're pretty much cycling between using Rip and Savage Roar. You're trying to maintain high uptime on both of those abilities because those are what's going to get you most of your damage is Savage Roar and Rip. Savage Roar, obviously, 33% extra damage. You always want that up. You want that at 100%. Rip, you don't technically want 100% because 100% means that you're refreshing it, but you want it does its final tick of damage as it's falling off. So you actually want it to fall off and then immediately reapply it so that you don't lose any ticks from it. It's the same way that like casters that do dots and stuff like that. It's the same exact concept. So if you play a caster alt or anything like that, it's the same concept. You want the last tick to land, so you let it fall off and immediately reapply it.
All right.
But that's the tough thing is definitely juggling those 2 timers because they don't line up at all. The durations that you get out of Savage Roar are different from the duration you get out of Rip. So generally what I like to recommend is doing 2 or 3 point Savage Roars, not 5-pointers, because if you want to make sure that they are offset, because you don't want them to expire at the same time, you want to make sure that you're maintaining them both. The best way to do that is to use 2 or 3 point Savage Roars, because a 2-pointer is 24 seconds, a 3-pointer is 29 seconds, and 26 seconds for Rip is right in the middle of those two. So if you're doing 2 or 3 pointers, you have a much better chance at maintaining super high uptime on both of them.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's the whole bubble management for like feral and combat rogues is just rough because it changes like your rotation as like, we'll just use one of the, the 2 easier ones like Assassination Rogue or Ret Pally. It's just like a this and then this and then this and then this. But like depending on like what you get and like the movement of the fight for rogue or a feral, you're like, okay, well I'll do a 3 bubble one this time. Oh, nope. Okay, well I need to do a 4. But now this is longer because I did a 4, and so now I could do this a little differently. It's like such an art.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's a lot of thinking on your feet. And it's one of those things also where like you have to kind of evaluate what is happening in the fight and what you are having to deal with at the moment and what you are going to have to deal with in the near future so that you can make more, you can make smarter decisions about the way that you're spending your combo points.
All right, here.
So
It sounds like when I play
Pause.
Prop Pally and
Here,
I have
hold on. No.
Why?
We're in an ad for another minute and 15 seconds. Just talk about stuff. I'll mark down, but like don't actually do the guide. Like I feel bad for the people in chat.
So when I play Prop Pally, I push 2 of my 8-second cooldowns. And then I'm like, shit. And I'm like trying to get back onto my 6-8 second cooldown rotation. And it's like a hot mess.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's almost more planning ahead of time than anything else, really. Like if you plan it, if you already know what you're going to do ahead of time, then you're fine. Especially like when because like for Prop Pally, you have like, you always know it's going to be 6 or 8 or 9, depending on how many points you put into stuff. Right. But like you always know, like, okay, I'm going to alternate between the 2, a 6 and then a 9, a 6 and then a 9, or a 6 and an 8, whatever. Like Feral is all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's one of those things
where
that's
how healing is, right? Like healing's all over the place.
I feel like there's a lot of people I know that have played healers that are good at Feral because they're already used to thinking on their feet. They're already used to having to adjust on the fly. Yeah.
I mean, I was not good at Feral, but I'm good at healing. I understand the concept of Feral. It's just the difference between healing and melee. Yeah. Melee is always it's just weird to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, melee can be pretty frantic. I think that's the word that I would use to describe melee in general is frantic, because it's like, especially for
you can't see in front of you all the time,
It can be hard to tell where the boss's back is. Like you have to mark the tank so you know which way the boss is facing, so you know where the back is, like little stuff like that you don't have to deal with if you're ranged or healer.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I should have put a warlock.
Dude, that's what everybody's saying now, because look how much damage they're doing. It's like, warlock or unholy DK, which one?
Right.
Really, an unholy DK is just a warlock in plate, though.
Yeah.
That can do it.
Dude, that's a big thing. Like, I'm getting really tired of trying to figure out where the tank decided to pull the boss this run. Like, when I tank, I try to do it the same every week to help out. Help out people, but it drives me nuts because sometimes they just go in and they tank. Sometimes they go in, walk through the boss, and then tank on the other side. I'm like, dude, I need to know where you're taking this. I don't even know. Every time, because I want to be behind the fucking boss. And I can't see
this
shit
is something
with
that does
all
not
the
affect me.
Yeah, I can't see shit with all the bullshit going on. I need to know where you're gonna take. So actually, you just inspired me to ask our raid lead to mark our main tank at all times, because
it'll increase the DPS of all your melee. Because if all your melee is behind, no one's getting parried. Everybody's actually doing damage.
Right?
Yeah, dude.
I never worried about that when I played my rogue, though. I was combat also, because I would tricks the tank, get 2 points up, slice and dice, 1 more sinister strike, and then killing spree while Trix was still up to giga dump threat on the tank. So it didn't matter where the tank pulled him, because I was always going to end up behind the boss anyway.
Killing spree helps so much, dude.
What's
helps
that movement on Hagen? Killing spree.
It helps so much on a lot of things, because it literally puts you right on the pixel. But there's times where it screws you, because my Exida is always keeps moving it around, because he I think he feels like he's not close enough because the box, and then I'll killing spree, and then all of a sudden I'm not fucking swinging, because I needed to back up just a smidge because the boss moved out, because Yip moved up just a smidge. I'm just
That's funny.
Yeah. So yeah, but it does help a lot with a lot of bosses just to get me in the right spot.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it's we were talking about this a little bit. We touched on it slightly, but planning ahead of time is a big thing in general, but especially with melee. You need to communicate with your tank and with your raid leader to know where the positioning is going to be, so you can know where you need to post up, and you can plan things around. Take a fight like Grobulus, for example. Grobulus is constantly turning to face people to cast mutating injection on them.
Right.
So if you know that as a feral, you have to be behind the boss to cast shred. So depending on which way around the room Grobulus is being kited, position yourself on the outer edge of his hitbox so that when he turns to face the casters, you can still shred. Like little things like that are going to help out as well.
So even when a boss does an animation that like they turn for a second and then turn back, you still have to be behind them if you're trying to shred at that moment that they're turned towards somebody else, right?
Yep.
Yep. It was a pain in the ass playing
It sounds miserable.
Yeah, it was a pain in the ass playing Dagger Rogue in
And vanilla.
Yeah, in vanilla. Like at least like Dagger Rogues now can mutilate like in the front of the target. So,
but if you want to play combat daggers, you're still in the same boat you were before.
Oh, yep, true. But who plays combat daggers? Is that a thing?
I don't think so. I don't think it's a thing because it's like mutilate costs less energy and does more damage. So why would you want to use backstab if you can use mutilate?
Yeah, I was thinking about testing it because I've got the 2 BIS daggers. I would just have to swap the hands if I was going to try combat daggers. Like I'd have to swap the Sinister Re-Avenge to the main hand and the Web Death to the offhand. But yeah, I thought about trying it, but I don't think I'm gonna. All right.
I think the other thing is Killing Spree. It doesn't have a separate damage multiplier for daggers versus slow weapons in the same way that Fan of Knives does. So typically, killing Spree horrible. With a Dagger Rogue is not going to hit as hard as it would if you were using slow weapons.
Well, I feel like if you were going to do Dagger combat, you wouldn't go down to Killing Spree.
You might not. You might want to try and get Seal Fate instead.
Yeah, like so it would be a different thing, but I am not going to test it, and I like Killing Spree, so
we can test it when we go on PTR to test the other stuff.
True. All right.
Okay, so I have a question.
Go.
So there's certain things that with feral druids that you want to let expire, is my understanding, and then there's certain things that you want to try to re-up before they expire.
Yeah, right? So like Savage Roar it's the only thing that's affected by the amount of combo points you spend on it is the duration. It doesn't do any damage. It just increases the damage you do. So that's one where you would want to refresh it pretty much wherever it makes sense to, which is also why it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of combo points on it because we're going to refresh it early anyway. So if you spend more combo points on it, you're basically wasting energy. You could have not spent those extra combo points on it because you were going to refresh it early anyway. Those combo points could have gone towards your next damaging finisher instead of Savage Roar. But for your bleeds like Rake and Rip, those 2 things, they do their final tick of damage as they're falling off the target. So if you refresh it before it's actually done, you're clipping that last tick of damage off, which decreases its efficiency. So you want to let those drop and then reapply.
Okay.
Which is how, I mean, that's how dots work also, like your Shadow Word Pain or even your Vengeance ticks and whatever. They'll do their final tick of damage as they drop.
So how much energy do the different finishing moves take? Because like the reason you're not wanting to like do a 2 bubble refresh on Slice and Dice is because for the amount of time that you get it is not worth the energy you just spent to use it, right? Like, so like, how does the energy work with feral as opposed to like regular moves?
Well, Savage Roar is basically, it's pretty much Slice and Dice. Like Savage Roar is basically Slice and Dice for ferals. Same energy cost 25, but the duration is a little different. So like you get like rogues get a talent that increases the duration it does, and I think you get a glyph as well. Is that right?
We don't actually use the Slice and Dice glyph at all. Like at least rogues. I don't know if I'm assuming Assassination doesn't either, just because they refresh it on autopilot as
they probably don't even need the talent, to be honest. They might take it anyway to get further down the tree, but I don't know, they probably don't need it because they're envenoming so much. But like Savage Roar, 1 point is 14-second duration, and then every point you spend beyond it is just another 5 seconds. So like it's not any more or less. Like technically, a 5-point Savage Roar is the most efficient usage of the combo points. But when you look at it in practice, since you're going to refresh it early a lot of the time, because like if you have your Savage Roar and your Rip synced up, you want to desynchronize them. You want to desynchronize the timer so that you don't have to choose between which one you're going to refresh. So you're going to refresh Savage Roar early instead of refreshing a Rip early, because if you refresh Rip earlier, you're losing damage. So you refresh Savage Roar early, which means if you spend more points on it, you're just killing its efficiency by having wasted the energy. But Savage Roar is 25 energy, Rip is 30, and Ferocious Bite is 35. But Ferocious Bite kind of works like Execute for warriors, where every point of energy that you spend, that you have beyond that 35 that you spent on it, gets converted into extra damage, up to a maximum. Like there's a maximum amount of energy that it can convert, but it kind of works like Execute in that way. And unfortunately, the damage to energy, or the energy to damage conversion for Ferocious Bite isn't very good. So the only way that it's like not terrible is if the Ferocious Bite crits. And right now in current phase 1 gear, there's not, especially if you're a fresh boosted feral looking to get into stuff, your bites probably aren't going to crit. So it's not really a good idea to bite anyway, because it's going to drain your energy pretty much. Like unless you have like 65 energy, your energy is going to be completely gone after a bite. So that's generally why we don't want to bite in phase 1, because you need your energy for other stuff. The damage you get at a bite isn't going to be worth the amount of energy you have to give up in order to use a bite in the first place. But Rip being 30 energy, kind of weird. I'm pretty sure Rupture is 25, right?
God, I do not know, but it is definitely like a substantial chunk.
So Rupture is 25. So like Rip costs a little bit more than Rupture, but Rip's duration is the same no matter how many points you spend on it. So the thing that changes for Rip is how much damage it does. So generally speaking, you always want your Rips to be 5-point Rips, but your Savage Roars don't matter how many points they are, because extra points only means a longer duration. So that's why you refresh Savage Roar early instead of Rip when you're trying to desynchronize those two timers, because you always want your Rips to be 5-pointers, because that's the most amount of damage you're going to get. Whereas a Savage Roar basically doesn't matter how many points you spend on it. It could be 1, could be 5, doesn't matter. You're still getting the same buff out of it.
Got it. All right. Well, we are running close on time, but I do want to get like, is there any differences between like an AoE rotation?
Pretty much you're just using swipe for the most part. You're using a lot of swipe. If the pack is going to live for kind of a long time, you might want to get like a combo point with like a rake or something. It doesn't really matter what you use. Rake is just the cheapest. Get a combo point, throw up a Savage Roar, and then swipe. That's pretty much it. You just swipe.
So it's just like Rogue. Like,
yep.
You have like a intricate boss damage, but like you're literally hitting one button when you do AoE.
Yep. Swipe is basically Fenonized, but it's a frontal cone. It's not a full circle. So that's one thing to pay attention to, is when you're using swipe, just aim yourself at the mobs, because swipe will only hit stuff in front of you. Bear swipe is different. Bear swipe is 360. Cat swipe is frontal cone.
All right. What about oh shit buttons? What about do you have anything to like remove threat? Do you have anything to get you out of stuff? Like, what do you do when you're in trouble?
So there's a race specific answer, and then there is class specific answers. The race specific answer, of course, druids can only be night elves or Tauren. Tauren have War Stomp. War Stomp, of course, is a very short cast time, and it's a stun, AoE stun. That's a pretty good oh shit button. You can quite easily War Stomp and then get out of there if things are getting a little hairy. And Night Elves have Shadow Meld, which can be used in combat in Wrath of the Lich King, and it's a threat freeze. It's not a threat drop in the way Vanish is. It's a threat freeze, kind of like I'm trying to think if there's any other similar abilities.
Gives a couple seconds for the tank to regain threat on it, right?
Yep. So it doesn't remove your threat, it just pauses it. and you have to stay melded for the freeze to hold. So it kind of works like bop. Like if you or sorry, hop, whatever. If you bop somebody, their threat is frozen until the bop wears out, and then if the tank or whoever hasn't built enough threat to overtake them when the bop runs out, it's going to go back to that target. So it's a similar thing.
Cool.
So those are the two race specific answers, and then for class specific answers, there's Bark Skin, which is a damage reduction 1 minute cooldown. It's off the GCD, and it can proc Omen of Clarity. So if you're looking for an Omen proc, you don't need Bark Skin for anything. You can pop it to try and get an Omen proc. There's also Nature's Grasp, which all druids get.
Is that only if you're getting hit? Like, does bark skin only proc if you're getting hit?
Bark Skin, it's
you have to cast.
No. Does it only proc Omen of Clarity if you get hit?
Oh, no. It's when you cast it.
Okay, cool.
So you cast it, you could get an Omen proc potentially. It's pretty low proc chance, but it could happen. I've seen it happen myself a couple times. But yeah, that's your basic damage reduction cooldown. It's like analogous to like Feint, except for it has just a longer cooldown. Feint, of course, doesn't have really like Bark Skin is a minute cooldown. So that's a nice little oh shit button. You can use it to reduce AoE damage on a fight or whatever, or if you're tanking, it gets used a lot. Like I use it when I tank Patchwork. And just generally, it's a nice way to reduce the damage you do. You can use it on trash if you're going to the DK wing. All those whirlwind mobs, you just pop Bark Skin and go in there and swipe anyway when all the other melee have to get out because they're going to get killed.
Oh, rogue, dude. Evasion. What are you talking
dude.
about?
Yeah, us energy boys, we got a lot of tools, man. And then, of course, if you talent into it, there is Survival Instincts, which is typically considered to be a tank cooldown. It's basically Last Stand, but for ferals. You pop it and you get 30% extra health. There is also a glyph that tanks like to take that increases the amount of extra health you get from it, which is very nice. When I'm done tanking Patchwork and I have Survival Instincts still up, I have like almost 80,000 health, which is hilarious. So that's a good one to use as well if you want to survive some raid mechanics. My current DPS spec does not have Survival Instincts in it, but in Ulduar, you best believe I'm taking Survival Instincts. There's a lot of stuff in Ulduar that is very dangerous. But if you have lower HP, you might want to put a point in your Survival Instincts just because it increases your survivability situationally. So those are pretty good. And then the last one that deserves a mention is Nature's Grasp. It used to be talented, but now every druid can get it. It has 3 charges. You cast it. It can also proc Omen of Clarity when you cast it. And it has 3 charges. When an enemy hits you, they have a chance to be afflicted with Entangling Roots, which is a very nice way to escape from things. Like if you have aggro on like a group of enemies, like say the Trash Before Hagen or whatever, or just really anything, Trash Before Lotheb, the Grubs or whatever, pop Nature's Grasp and 3 of them can get rooted and you can get away.
Awesome. Is it Hagen or Hagen?
Nah, I don't know. It's a made-up name. I've never heard anywhere else. I'm pretty sure we can pronounce it however we want.
Yeah.
Don't tell Zero Hood I said that though.
All right. Well, we're definitely running into time. We cannot go over 3 hours, but I want to know: is there anything left you want to add? We've got 3 minutes.
Basically, Feral is complicated. Try and have fun. Like it's very easy to get lost in the shuffle. Be like, oh, what's the best thing? What, like, should I do this weave? Should I do that weave? Like, no, dude, have fun. Feral was designed to be very similar to the way that Combat Rogue plays. It's supposed to be Combat Rogue with a little spice. The most important thing is to have fun. If you're not having fun, don't try and force yourself into having fun with something that is not fun to you. Feral's fun for people like me because we like to giga sweat and min-max over it. But if that's not your style, then maybe try something else or just yourself. It takes, like, for anything complicated, it takes a long time to learn and to get good at it. Do a lot of practice, hit those training dummies, but go easy on yourself. Don't expect perfection quickly. It's not something that happens overnight. You got to do a lot of practice before you get comfortable enough with it to where it's second nature.
Awesome. All right, guys, this has been a banger. We're going to close out the show though now.
Finally went away though.
What
happened?
I said my headache finally went away.
Oh,
Hey, that's
nice.
Literally, like within the last 5 minutes.
Didn't expect that. We're talking about feral cheese. Oh wait,
Yeah.
add-on of the week.
Yes, thank you. All right, let's move into.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our add-on of the week.
All right, guys. So
Nice.
the add-on of the week this week is Loon, Loon, best in slot. We'll have the link for you. But basically what this does is when you hover over a item, it shows who it is best in a slot for. It shows if it's pre-bis, if it's tier 1, tier 2, like, and it on top of it, it puts a ranking from top to bottom of what DPS increase it does for the raid as well. So if there's a piece
Do I
that
have this?
I don't know if you do or not, but it's a, like, it'll basically show like, hey, this is BIS for this class spec, this class spec, this class spec, this class spec. But if you give it to the one at the top, it is the, like, from their calculations, the best raid increase for giving it to that person. So,
Oh, yes, I do have this. Now, one thing I'll say is that, yeah, like Bob said, it's not always like 100% accurate, right? But it does really, really, really help when you're leveling an ult or something and you just haven't like versed yourself in exactly every single piece that you might need or what stats are the highest priority for you. When you can like hover over it and be like, is this even on the list for me? Okay, no. And it's like nice and quick and easy. I love it.
What list does it pull from? Does it just pull from the Wowhead list?
I don't know.
No.
I believe from what I have seen, it pulls from the WoW TBC.GG list, but like, I don't know what the WoW TBC.GG list pulls from.
Wowhead. It says Wowhead BIS guides integrated in game.
Okay. So yeah. So like all of those are not like exactly correct, but it is a really good tool, especially for alts. Like, and if you're like, you know, like Nax is going so fast right now. And like the hardest part of Nax is being able to know if you should roll a lot of freaking item or I'm not. Like, let's,
Oh my God.
let's be
the
honest.
amount of items that I have just passed on because I didn't know, like I didn't have time to look to see if that was what I wanted. Ridiculous.
Yeah. So this is a great add-on just to help you easily, quickly look on how important it is to you or your raid. And so definitely check it out. We'll have the link in the show notes. And thank you to Tableslam for reminding me to do add-on of the week. Any new listeners, you might have never heard that bumper before because we just like haven't done it in forever. So awesome. All right, closing out. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at WC Reloaded. You can follow the Mash Those Buttons Network at the Mash Network. If you want to send us something long form, send those emails to wcrpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to join the Mash Discord and interact with the hosts of this show or hosts on any of the shows, it's mash.gg/Discord. If you want to help the podcast out, you can leave rating and reviews on iTunes. You can give us stars on Spotify. You can hit that bell, hit that like, and hit that subscribe on YouTube. You can leave a comment. All of those things help. You can subscribe to our Patreon, which is at Warcraft Reloaded. And you can buy a Rested XP guide using code RELOADED. Guys.
That's it?
No, that is definitely not it.
Oh.
See what happens, man. You bring me on and it's a super long one. I have that effect, apparently.
No.
Oh, everybody does.
Yeah. We just.
I think it's us.
It just
I mean,
literally happens.
the consistent portion is me and Bob, so I'm pretty sure we're the problem, but it's fine.
Yeah, no, for me, just tonight has been a struggle to talk. Like, for some weird reason. I don't know if it's because it's Christmas and I've tried to buy everybody presents and just like my brain's all a fluster.
Listen,
but
I didn't even want to hear about Bob going to buy presents. I was working and I gave him the go ahead to go and buy presents, and it was fine.
That's harsh, dude. Like,
I mean, I love you, sweetie. You did good until you bought the main event gift card for the 3-month-old. You know, that was where I drew the line.
Yep. You live and you learn, but
that'll accrue value.
It was like, how fun would that be for them? And I was like, do you know what a 3-month-old does? Nothing. Not that. I love you.
They'll grow into it.
This is a longer story, but the podcast has gone on too long, so I don't have time to defend myself. You'll have to tune into stream if you want the story on that. Mel, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at MelOverwatch or in-game on Millarina or Millarita.
Awesome. And Tableslam, Pimp It All. Where can we find you?
Well, right now I just have, as far as social media presence, it's literally just YouTube and Twitch right now. YouTube is just youtube.com/@Tableslam because I got those nice little tags out now. And then my twitch.tv/table_slam. And I play on Peggle. My tune's name is Ladder Slam. So if you got questions, hit me up in game. I also have an alt feral named Ladder Slan with an N because I wanted to troll myself. So if I'm on that tune, you can whisper me there. Or sometimes I'll be playing hardcore. When I say sometimes, I mean most of the time. Classic era Bloodsail Bucks. And I'm playing either Tableslam or Radagast.
Nice. And you can find me on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. You can find me on Twitch streaming normally, regularly, not as much this last, holiday season week, but yeah, you can find me there at BlazinBob. Whew. I don't know what was wrong with me tonight, guys. Like, I could not keep focused. This has been horrible.
Just blame me, dude. It's fine.
No, it's definitely not you. It's definitely me. I don't know.
I'll tank it. It's fine.
Yeah.
I solo tank.
I'm the healer. You can blame me. I'm used to it. It's fine.
All right. Well, let's get out of here. We will see you next week. Bye.
Adios.
Thank you very much for checking out Warcraft Reloaded podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any future content.